Miss Brysta Kasioka. If you're in the room, please let's put our hands together for her. Her taste and sense of fashion, yeah, would wow you. Please let's give her another round of applause. Last but not least, allow me to introduce, I didn't mention that she's also the top 35 under 35 awardee. So if you're looking for someone to look up to, she's right here. And then another top 35 under 35 awardee is Miss Valerie Lambicia. Please let's put our hands together for her. So very fast, okay. Miss Valerie. Is Valerie in the room? She's outside. Okay, I think we'll just proceed. So, my first question to you. Amazing panelists. We were here last year. Where are we getting it wrong as a country in terms of manufacturing? Please introduce yourself and address that question in 1 minute. So I'll start with, okay, you can use this. Brightstar, introduce yourself and just tell us, are we getting it right as a country in terms of manufacturing? Where are we?
Hello, everyone. Okay, my name is Brightstar. I'm a fashion designer. We custom make suits, African wear, and casual wear. And just to answer the question, as a country, I think we are not yet there. That is because even our school system, we teach people to look for jobs and not create jobs. So most people are not for jobs that are not employment related. So like manufacturing, most of the time you need to go out there. Like you see, when I say I'm a fashion designer, some people tell me, you're just but a tailor. So there's that notion that manufacturing is not a lucrative industry to be in, because most of the time it's the technical work. But people want to white collar jobs. Most manufacturing needs you to go there and you do the dirty work before now you can enjoy the fruits, and most people are not looking into that. And I think also the fact that manufacturing, you need some finances for you to produce something, it discourages a lot of young people from it. Because like for me, I had to buy machines. And buying machines, it's kind of expensive. Not every young person can afford that. And then also when you go to get a loan in a bank, you're told you need collateral, which you don't have. So it's very discouraging for most young people to go into it. Yeah.
Thank you. So you are saying that the young people are not ready to take up the challenge because of the work that it takes. Ms. Gaither, what do you think?
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon behind there. I am thinking you're going to fall asleep. Right there. Yes, you looking behind. Sorry? Okay. My eyes are on you. Okay, my name is Waidera Gaido. And I wear many hats. The first hat I will mention is I'm the executive director of an organization called Alternatives Africa, mainly known or popularly known as Alternatives. And what we are is an accelerator for youth-owned micro and small enterprises. And we have designed something we call an affordable ecosystem that includes a SACCO, a Young Entrepreneurs Association, an agro hub, and probably our most popular platform, the Youth Economic Dialogues, that focuses on matters mostly economic governance, bringing together the private sector, the government, and the young entrepreneur to enable them have that conversation. Secondly, the other hat I wear is that I sit in the Kenya Private Sector Alliance as the chairperson spearheading the youth agenda in KEPSA, both industry and the foundation. And the other hat I wear is co-chairing in the agricultural sector network. Agriculture is very close to my heart. How many of you are in the agricultural sector? Yes, and manufacturing is a great opportunity for you. Osido, I've seen even you're in agriculture. What are you producing or manufacturing? Are you producing or manufacturing chicken? We don't manufacture chicken. They give birth to themselves. So is there an echo? I'm hearing the echo myself. So, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So, with regard to your question, which is where are we going wrong? I don't think we are going wrong, but I don't think we are going right either. I think we are evolving. We are somewhere, but we are not yet there. So the question is, where do we want to go, and how do we get there? And so, for me today, I'm here to upset you, excite you, and inspire you. Because for manufacturing to happen, it requires you and I. Yes? Manufacturing is at different levels. Yeah? She does design. She's a fashion designer. But she'd have no fabric if nobody produced it. Somebody must manufacture it. I want to assume that everybody here sleeps on a bed. How many people are required for you to be able to sleep on a bed? You need a carpenter, right? And that carpenter, and that carpenter requires someone to at least manufacture the, what are those boards called? Plyboards and all. My own voice is a megaphone. Can you hear me behind there? Yeah, you can. It's my point of reference.
Try
so,
this one.
You don't. Sorry? Only one. Okay. This one is off. This one is off. Okay. So, there is the carpenter who needs someone to manufacture wood for him, but there is also a mattress, isn't it? Someone must manufacture a mattress. Then there's a bed sheet. Someone must manufacture the bed sheet. And then there's a blanket. Someone must also manufacture that blanket. So how many people must come together for you to sleep on that bed that you're going to sleep in today? And what's your contribution, for example, in that value chain? So we need to look at manufacturing not just at Chandaria level, not just at Vimal's level, but at your level, what role are you playing along, the manufacturing, or rather in the manufacturing sector, the various value chains that are there. So I wish to focus on access to finance, access to machinery in our conversation today, look at access to markets, and organization of young people. And from there then look at how then as young people can we contribute to expanding local production. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, allow me to introduce Valerie Lambisia. She's top 35 under 35 awardee. You're welcome. So please, as we continue with this discussion, I want us to do a small exercise to save on time. Up there, I don't know whether you can all see it. I'm using a platform called Mentimeter to get your questions so that we can address them as we continue with this conversation. We do not have much time. So just go to your phone, on your browser, search for Mentimeter. Mentimeter. Can I spell it for you guys? It's Mentimeter. 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 So when you go to that platform, there is a code that is currently showing. So it will ask you to enter the code. The code is, you're not there yet? The code is 677-01446. 677. Can I? 677 01446. Did we get it right? Can I repeat again? 6, that's okay? Yeah, so please send in your questions using that platform, okay? So you can type, I'll be able to see them. 677 0146. Yes, 677 01446. Let's proceed. So, Valerie, as you introduce yourself, my question is, are we getting it right as a country in terms of manufacturing? Please, the tech in the house, assume it's the president having this session. Please work on these mics. It's an embarrassment, sorry to say, but yes. Let's get good mic. Proceed.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm glad to be here, and I'll go straight to the question. But first of all, I'm Lambisia Valerie. I'm the CEO and founder of Crochet Hub Africa, a company that deals in crochet stuff, and we do that as a business. This is our 3rd year into activity. So as a country, I think we have not yet gotten it right. Because as a manufacturer, I work in the Juakali industry, but the only people whom we have recognized as manufacturers are people with big industries like the Chandarias. Good, they are giving us role model, they are laying platform for us, they are mentoring us, but as a country, we need to look at small manufacturers like we, who entirely depend on human resource in order to manufacture our goods. That is in the Juakali industry. Because for me, if I don't get up in the morning to go to my small industry, a number of families are not going to put food on their table. But the country doesn't seem to recognize that so much. And I think something needs to be done.
Something needs to be done. Please, let's give a round of applause. I was just looking at the economic survey of 2019, because that's the latest. 2020 is yet to be released. And from that report, 12.1% of the total number of persons engaged in formal employment are employed in the manufacturing sector. This was a 1.6 increase from the 2018, and we are happy. But my question now is, what do you think are some of the opportunities? Because we are talking about the 2021 Youth Employment Conference. We are here to create employment, not to look for one. Please don't come asking for employment. We are job creators, right? So what are the opportunities for youth to venture into in the manufacturing industry or sector? I'll start with you, Ms. Gaidho, talking from a private sector perspective and also as a person who runs an organization, what are the opportunities for the youth?
Okay, I want to stand. Allow me to stand. First and foremost, let me say thank you to the organizers of this conference, and thank you for being consistent. Youth Agenda. I know it's not easy to organize a conference, bringing together all these partners. You know, there are so many. I think there are about 30. I want to say thank you. And I pray that this will not stop, because a huge wheel does not start turning quickly, immediately, isn't it? It takes time. But once it starts turning, what happens? It becomes very difficult to stop it, isn't it? And this is one annual event that's bringing together young people to think through matters that affect them and to also ask themselves, what role can I play in change? So I want to say thank you to those who spent sleepless nights asking people for photos, trying to raise funds, you know, holding one meeting after another. I want to appreciate the partners, all these partners. Having them here is not easy. Those who give money and those who don't give money. A resource does not always have to be financial. So I want to stand in honor of you and to say thank you for the time and the effort you have put. Secondly, I want to honor the young person of Kenya, but by extension also of Africa, because sooner or later, you really cannot separate yourself from Africa. And I want to appreciate you because really, how many of you are in business? Apart from the two of us, I'm also in business. How many? The rest of you, what are you doing? Mentimeter. Can I use Mentimeter also?
Yes.
Nidoe. Wacha nidoe. How many of you, what if you're not in business, what are you doing? Can you just type in maybe one word what you do? School, employed, like that. Nothing is also an answer. Okay, as we wait for that to be put together, so you can just shout it, I'll hear it. If you're not in business, what are you doing? Okay. So that's a social organization. So do you get paid? Do you get paid through profit, or do you ask for donor funds or someone to fund you to mentor? How do you get paid? How do you make your money? How do you make your money is my question. Sorry? So basically what you do to make a living is agriculture, yes? So you're still in business because agriculture is business, isn't it? So how many of us are employed to save on time? Good, 3, 4 of you. Okay, this generation, I dare to say, is the first entrepreneurial generation of Africa. Okay? And so, you're learning as you go by, isn't it? And that is why entrepreneurship, by the way, someone called it an extreme sport. It's not a joke. Okay? It's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for the faint-hearted. But because our education system did not include entrepreneurship, we were trained to do what, and we don't blame that particular generation. Our parents used to be fished out of Form 4 to go work in government. So they thought if they give you university, you'll even get a better job. They didn't know that everybody's child will be in university and jobs will get scarce. Okay? And neither were they trained to be visionaries. They were trained to be producers. Okay? So it was very hard for them to tell you, go get into business. Okay? And you're competing with a world that in Germany will tell you, I work for Bosch, it's been in my family for 300 years. Okay? You're competing with Vimal's son, Vimal's son, who is going to tell you that their business has been around for how many years? At least 50 years. Okay? With Chandaria's son, who is going to tell you his business has been they've been in business for how long? Almost 100 years. Because Chandaria is 90-something, and it's his father who started the business. So for you who's 23, when you go to the bank and you want a loan, and Chandaria's grandson enters with you, you'll be saying your business is how old? I'm starting a new business. Here's my business proposal. He will have his business proposal and say that he's been in business for how many years? The last 100 years. And how old is he? 18. You get what I'm saying? But I'm not telling you that so that you can feel discouraged, or that there is no hope, or that it's a bad thing. No, it's to tell you that you're the first entrepreneurial generation. Give yourself a break. Don't be too hard on yourself. But he asked a question about opportunities. We cannot finish, by the way, you need to, whatever time for me. We cannot finish the opportunities that are in this country. We are swimming in an ocean of opportunities. How many value chains do you know? How many value chains do you think we have? There are millions upon millions. Let's talk about agro-processing, which is in agriculture. How many of you have looked at a document called the Industrial Transformation Program? It's by the Ministry of Industry. It's focusing big time on agro-processing and even fish processing. I'm going to tell you that in the agricultural sector, almost every value chain has a post-harvest loss of between 20 and 50%. Why? Because we are not adding value. Okay? Most of what you export is exported as raw material without adding value. All those are opportunities. And every value chain has different nodes, from production to market. A creative can find their place there. A lawyer can find their place there. An accountant can find their place there. My simple answer to you is, the opportunities are an ocean that we cannot exhaust. They are limitless. But don't blame yourself for not yet seeing them. That's one of the reasons we are here today, okay?
Thank you. So she's just reiterated what the Chief Technical Advisor to ILO said yesterday. The opportunities are limitless. We can't discuss and get to the bottom of it now. So it's upon you to identify and run with it. And as you run with it, I'd like to hear from our sisters here who saw an opportunity and ran with them. Starting with the Bright, how did you get into the fashion? What inspired you? Maybe you could become an inspiration to one of there was a designer somewhere. Where are you? The lady designer, makeup artist, and everything. I think yes, she could be inspired by your story. In 1 minute, please just tell us, what inspired you to get into the fashion industry?
Okay, it's very interesting because I never thought I'll be in fashion industry. After I graduated, I wanted to do media, but at that time I participated in a reality show, Miss President, and I realized I wasn't ready to be a public figure at that time because I had a lot of trauma I was dealing with from my childhood, and I kept breaking up in public. So I went missing for like 3 months. I would stay in the house and cry. And I started this, I joined my best friend who was supposed to do a business together, but I didn't start with him because I got depressed. So I was learning this to overcome. At that time I used to hide my hand a lot. So I was doing this because I thought I don't want to stay in the house. And then at that time it's a very interesting story. I adopted a cat and I needed to look for milk for that cat. So I had to go work. So I went to work to look for food. But when I joined the industry, I just told my best friend, I want to learn this from you. He's been in the industry for a long time. And On joining the industry, the first day I put an ad in social media, and that's why even my business is called Star Tailored. Star Tailored is from my name, Bright Star. I didn't have time to think about a name, a business name, so I just got my name like Star. And I put an advert and I got 2 clients, and I was like, oh, making money is that easy from social media. And I realized every client I talked to would end up buying. There's no client who will walk in my office and find me and not buy a suit. So I realized I had very strong sales and marketing skills that I didn't know of, and I decided to pursue it seriously. The funny thing is I used to sell suits wearing a crop top and a short or just jeans. I wasn't like really into suits, but I found people believing in me and what I was doing. And so it's a story where you don't just sit. As a young person, if you find yourself depressed or going through anything in life, find something that you can do. If I just sat, it's not working. It's okay. So if I just sat in the house and cried and felt I was depressed, Star Tailored would have never been born. So when you're going through tough times, just pick anything, even if it's cleaning or whatever that you need to do in this life, and try and distract you. Because most young people are always depressed. That's what I learned. But now instead of us going out there and grabbing opportunities to try and overcome what we are going through, we stay inside and wait for someone to come and save us. And no one is coming to save us, trust you me. Most people are also drowning in their own problems, and sometimes we expect maybe our family members and people who we know to come and, give us a job and all that. So you have to get out. The first step is get outside of your house and just get something to do. For me, I was just doing it at that moment to overcome my challenges, and then I realized I had strength in sales and marketing. And then when you start doing something, what I learned from my life story is that life opens, like opportunities opens. I am sure most of you have come across maybe my interviews. I've never looked for any interview. I just did a suit for a client, and then he posted me, and then the media picked my story. So once God sees you doing something and working towards something, trust you me, heavens open up and collude to help you. So you have to start and do something.
Amazing. Can you just, as I wind up with some of the top 3 challenges that you've faced in the sector or in the industry, top 3 for you?
One was finances. Of course, that I think every entrepreneur faces that one. You find I needed to invest a little bit, maybe get machines, the tailors, and every person I reached out at that time told me this: you cannot go into business with a loan. What if you don't succeed in this business? You will not be able to pay back the loans and you'll be very frustrated. But I'm sure right now most of those people look up to me and they're like, I wish I invested in that girl, But a lot of people don't invest in dreams at their initial stages. That was the biggest. You reach out to people, they don't believe maybe this can materialize into something. So finances is one of the biggest ones.
Finance, the second one?
The second one is perspective, I think. Being a young girl, even right now, I think most clients, when they come in the office, the first thing they see is a beautiful girl. The next thing is, when can I marry you? So it's not like they don't look at you as a business person, they look at you as a flower girl. So I had to be very strict and have some boundaries. So as a young girl, if you want to get into business, I think you'll have to face so many people. I'm sure you're beautiful, so I'm sure that's a problem for you as well. So that perceptive, that's that one. A lot of people don't think that a young person can run something.
Okay.
And then maybe the third one is now when it comes to manufacturing, there's a lot of things intertwined. It's not just like you and you have to do. There's tailors, there's other things. So
the value chain.
The fabrics, you have to get the fabrics from someone. The value chain now, interlinking it and working with it can be very, very difficult. So you have to learn how to manage people. You have to learn how to manage people, because most of the time as an entrepreneur or manufacturer, you are dealing with people and they'll disappoint you. Sometimes tailors disappear and the client is waiting for the suit. So you have to learn how to talk to people and interlink all these people for you to, because if your product fails, the clients don't see the other people behind that product, they just see you. So I had to learn my communication skills very well, and also managing people. I learned that business is not about managing the money, but people. So
Thank you.
you have to learn how to deal with
Thank
people.
you, Bryce. Please let's give her another round of applause. Fantastic. I was just looking at my figures, because they say numbers never lie. From the Economic Outlook Survey of 2019, it was discovered that the loans or the financing of this particular sector increased from 335 billion in 2018 to 366 billion in 2019. Some of the leading lenders were like IDB, the Development Bank of Kenya, ICDC, and the rest. But my question to Valerie, what are other financing opportunities or alternatives apart from loans? Just in 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you very much. When it comes to funding the youth, it's a bit tricky, but the good news is that you have to be on the table of discussion. Like, I come from Homa Bay County in a rural setup, but in every forum of the youth, I'm present. So that way, I've been able to access or to network and access many opportunities where funding is provided. For instance, we have KEOP, Mbele na Biz, we have YALI, we have Tony Elumelu Foundation. So if you are in the right forum, like you are now, funding opportunities will just come out. And then the problem with us, with we youth, is that we have not made our elevator pitches. So at any given time, like when you're seated here now, I expect that you have a pitch so that in case you run into a sponsor right now, you can pitch to them and they can elevate you, they can give you some funding. So apart from loans, you can get grants from outside Africa, outside Kenya. You can get loans even here within Kenya. Government is giving youth a lot of funds. So because we have not sat on those tables, we have not come to those tables, some of those youth funds, we are missing on them.
Absolutely. If you're not on the table, you are the menu, right? And I remember there was one government official who was seated where you guys are seated, and he said, the young people do not want to work. You are asked to submit a proposal, a funding proposal. You're like, that's bureaucracy. Now government doesn't want to. She's just told you, the funding opportunities are limitless, just like any other opportunity. So it's upon you to take a step, to do the heavy lifting. My question to you, Gaither, we know from 2012 we had the we had the 2030, which is the economic blueprint for Kenya. And then we enacted we formulated some policies. One of them was the National Industrial Transformation Program. Then there was the Kenya Industrial Transformation Program. There was the national and then the Kenya one. And then in 2018, we had the Big Four. But really, we've had so many policies focusing on this sector. But if you look at the Big Four, their projection is to move this sector to 15%, right? Currently, they are at, who knows, about 9 point something, 9.2, 9 point, yeah, thereabout. So are there policy gaps? As you answer that, I want you to link that to research. Are policies that we develop as a country, are they research-based? Or we just come up with, the manufacturing sector can employ youth, so let's develop a policy framework. People are taken to Mombasa or Naivasha. They sit for 1 week, come up with a document that is still gathering dust in most of the cabinets in them. So are there policy gaps? And are the policies linked to the research? In 2 minutes.
Okay. First, let me say that it is not the government's role, excuse me, the government's role is not to create businesses. The government's role is to create an enabling environment in which businesses ought to thrive. You and I are the creators of those businesses. Business is very practical, okay? If you have a challenge in business, then you're going to look at what does the regulation say, what are the legislations, and what are the policy. But the only reason you'll be interested in those is because you're in that particular sector. So when we are talking about policy gaps, associations like KEPSA exist to advocate and lobby the government in those particular gaps. But because we are talking about us as young entrepreneurs, okay? We are not about to build Chandaria Industries today. Let's just be honest. She's doing crochet. I think that's a brand with global potential, okay? I'm a lover of yellow and green. I'm thinking, can I get a dress like this? A long one, you know? Because I have never seen one. You know, my next question would have been, are you on Instagram? Because that's the quickest way for me to connect with her, okay? But I'm not going to ask her, are you experiencing policy gap? Me, I want an outfit. You get what I'm saying? She's the one who maybe will not be getting enough wool and start asking herself, how can I import more wool because the demand for my product has increased. So policy gaps will always be there. They will never stop being there because a policy gap is basically a problem that requires to be solved, but it's only relevant if there is a business person that is having a challenge in it. For example, the example I've given, yeah? But looking at us as young people, if we are keeping it simple, you're not going to go and start talking policy. You won't work, isn't it? You won't put money in your pocket first, isn't it? Then from there, you will start discussing the policy gap. I want to ask you guys a question and challenge you. And this is my contribution to that financial question. How many youth do we have in Kenya? 13.5. Can we work with 13.5? Okay. If every young person agreed that all of us, as the youth in Kenya, are going to open an account. This is just an example. There are many ways of putting funds together, yeah? Say in KCB. And we all put 1 shilling. How much would we have as youth? 13 point? If we decided to put 5 shillings, how much would we have? The mathematicians, science students, arts, we can listen. Sorry? You'd have 100. 67.5, isn't it? What if we decided we are feeling generous to make dough? Let's put 50 bob. All of us at a go. How much will we raise? 50 times 13.5 million?
675.
675 million, isn't it? Let's even get more generous. Let's put 100 shillings.
135 million. 35 million. Million.
1.35 billion. Billion, isn't it? Ni watu wangapi hapa hawana so? Okay, let me ask the other way. How many people here have 100 shillings? Most of us have 100 shillings, isn't it? So is our problem that, and by the way, that 100 bob, I know some of you will say, ayo ni bus fare, ni nini, but won't you have another one tomorrow? And the next day and the next day. Because all of you will do your hair, your makeup, shoes, all of you, a tie for the guys, whatever you guys like. My point is this. Is it the money we lack or is it the organization we lack? It's both. But you have 100 bob. If each of you just put once, we've not even put twice. If each of you, 13.5, and remember 13.5 is aged between 18 and 35, meaning you have an ID. If all of you just removed 100 bob once, you said you'll have 1 point what billion? 3.5 billion inside your KCB account. After that, you go to KCB as youth, your leaders, and now negotiate with KCB for products that are what? Well, wataiba because you did not include a lawyer. How many of you are law students? Kuna wangapi? Kuna mmoja. Kuna wapili. Kuna mwingine pale juu. Mtu uibiwa sana sana ukiwa peke yako. Na Mswahili alisema kidole kimoja kivunji? Exactly. So the issue is this. The issue is organization. The issue is also systems. Okay? So my challenge to us as young people is what she said. Let's change our perspective.
True.
It rises and falls with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Waithera. Let's change our perspective. My last question goes to Valerie. According to the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2013, there's a provision for 40% local content in it. Yeah? We all remember when SGR was being constructed, right? Everything came from China. My question to you, you do knitting and it's please stand up, let everybody see you. I can't believe this, right? So, my question to you, Valerie, do you think as a country we have the necessary skill to produce globally competitive products? Are there barriers, and if so, how can we address them?
As a country, we are in Africa, and Africa is the mother of all resources. We have everything that we need to produce everything. The problem is, like she put it, we normally export our good products so that they can be brought back expensively to us. So like me in the crochet industry, I promote local manufacturers. If you look at all my items, I have promoted local spinners. And when I do my items, I am also environmentally sensitive, such that I'm recycling old soils. So if we look around us, there are many opportunities to tap into. The only thing is that we want to look at it in one way. Yet we can have a varied way of looking at it, an angle that can be productive for ourselves. The barrier to this is the competition from China and these developed countries. So that even Kenyans themselves don't want to promote a fellow Kenyan like me. They want to wear Louis Vuitton. They don't want to promote Crochet Hub Africa. If I tell someone that this piece goes for 4,000, they'll tell me to go to hell, because they don't want to promote me. But if they get shoes, Puma like this, I'm doing 5,000, they'll buy it very fast and drop them the following day. So the barriers, we are the barriers ourselves as well, because we don't want to promote our very own stuff.
We don't believe in our own products. Please. If I were you, I would not be clapping. I'll be pinching myself. Why would I not promote my own product? Yeah? So, thank you, my panelists. Thank you very much. Now, as we close this and take questions from and please, I will not be taking questions in an analog manner. We are digital. We are the youth. If your question is not here, please, you can send it to the panelist later, okay? Because of time again. So, I have a question here from whether you say there's plenty of opportunities for youth in the manufacturing. What support is available to make it worth venturing into? What are those opportunities? Very direct. The second question you can mark so that, yeah. There's a good and sustainable scalability of crochet business. Yes, my question is, what are some of the policies or partnership to grow crochet business in Africa instead of being done on a low scale? Very good question. The other, looking at manufacturing in Kenya at large, the truth is that few individuals have continuously dominated the major facets. Suggest ways that can ensure inclusion and erasing monopoly. Another very good question for Waithera. Fertilizer import insensitive. For farmers, it's only delivered to cereal stores only to find it was sold before it was delivered. How can young and less capital get insensitive? Okay. Yeah, so those are the, okay, there's another one here. We're talking of opportunities that exist, but have never come across them, especially the people from rural areas. My question, how can I access opportunities and the fundings? I think that has been answered, right? They've talked about how to get networked, right? How will youth get jobs in the sector if the challenges we have outlined haven't been addressed? Some have loans they are taking help which they have not been able to pay off. So the issue of loans and listing on CRB. And let me just see if I have, okay. So those are the questions. So you'll take 1 minute each. I'll start with Waithera because I think most of the questions were directed to you. So just take 1 minute, respond to them, and make your final submissions.
As I told you earlier, let's have a practical conversation, yeah? So I told you that at Alternatives we have a Young Entrepreneurs Association. So I will give examples, some examples from there. With regard to fertilizer, are there any of you that use organic fertilizer? For those of you that say that you're in agriculture, do you use organic fertilizer? I can see some of you nodding. Yes. How many of you have studied agriculture in this room? Okay. We've got some of the top universities that offer very good agricultural courses. I have a young entrepreneur in our association who's using vermiculture. I have 1 minute, I'm not going to get into the definition of vermiculture. When you look at, the other day she said, I can't remember the exact figures, but she said that just by using vermiculture, I think from an acre, she was able to harvest over 80 bags of, she was doing peppers, bell peppers, green, red, and yellow. She did not use the synthetic fertilizer. She used vermiculture. She posted photos of her chicken. I felt pain that those feathers were going to be wasted because they were glowing. Again, what was she feeding them? Vermiculture, which is mainly worms, and skuma wiki. So when you're talking about fertilizer, it doesn't affect her business. She made a kill. There's a young man also in agriculture who's teaching people how to set up balcony farms, you know, like this green whatever, in their balconies here in Nairobi, or in Nairobi County. Okay. What opportunities do we have? Again, I will give you examples. I'll use the mango value chain. What do we know mango popularly for? Apart from eating it directly, what else do we use mango for? Juice. What else do we use it for? Sorry? For ice creams, or what do you mean by creams? Beauty creams or what? Ice cream. And so basically, you know it for ice cream and juice and eating it as it is, isn't it? Do you know, you've heard of shea butter and cocoa butter. Do you know there is mango butter? Do you know what mango butter is made from? Let me say it's not made from the flesh. It's made from something inside the seed. Do you know that the actual seed, when you burn it, it becomes a certain charcoal, which even in Kenya we import for water purification? Do you know that the mango skin on the outside has an essential oil, and the inside part of it has something called pectin that's very popular in the pharmaceutical industry? The only thing we are doing with the mango is eating it and throwing everything else away. And even that one that we eat, it has got a 50% post-harvest loss. So someone has come, and I'm speaking of a practical something happening as we speak. They are drying mangoes and selling them. The shelf life of a mango is about a week, isn't it? When it's raw. When you dry that mango, its shelf life becomes 1 year. So exporting it to other countries, it doesn't matter how long it stays in the high seas. They're selling over 30,000 pieces, I won't say in which country, per month, and they can't meet the demand. They are even doing cassava flour, you name it, banana flour, for that Western market. What have I just spoken about? Mango. Let's do the potato. What do you use potato for in Kenya? Chips, Zindio. What else? What other value addition do we have on potato? Crisps. What else? Do you know you can make potato wine? Do you know you can make cutlery? Plastic cutlery arusi. Do you know you can make it from potato? Do you know you can actually make clothes from potato? Do you know you can make potato flour, and it's very good when you mix it for, what do you call it, confectionery cakes. It's got better moisture cakes. Do you know you can make polythene from potato starch, and after you're done with it, put it in hot water and it melts. So it's organic, it's environmental friendly. Let me conclude with this. I asked a friend the other day what he was doing. He told me he's working for a new company. What does this company do? It goes around every market in Nairobi and its bedrooms, collects the organic waste in those markets, processes it as animal feed and fertilizer. Guess for which market? The US. Iyo mbolea iko kwa every village has a market, isn't it? They say every village has a madman. Every market has
Every village has a market.
Has a market which also has its own. Yes, forgive my French for those who are sensitive,
Thank you,
mental, whatever sensitive. Allow me to feel. You want to hear of opportunities. Forget about time. This is the only time I have. My point is this. I won't take more than 1 minute, though. I'll respect the timekeeper. What I'm saying is this. There's someone who's identified that your waste is so valuable, they came to your country, set up a company, employed a number of you who are collecting that waste in the market, degree holders, earning a very good salary from them, and it's being exported to the US as organic fertilizer and organic animal feed for a premium. The garbage, we've not even spoken of the actual things. I've not spoken of coconut. I've not spoken of mango. Okay? I've not spoken of strawberries. Do you know Kenya? That 90% of Ma is, Jesus was given 3 gifts, gold, frankincense, and hio. Do you know 90% of it comes from Kenya? And it grows naturally. Did you even know that you have it in Kenya? It grows wild. And you know where? In the arid and semi-arid. All of you are from a county that has a comparative advantage. Here in Kenya and here in Africa. Africa's comparative advantage is agriculture. So whatever is growing around you, if you thought and studied and researched on how you can add value to it, tell me that the problem is machinery. Now there we can have a problem. I know there is a problem with access to machinery. There is a solution. We can talk about it. But identify a value chain just around your community. Stop looking far. Just around you. The opportunity is there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please let's give a round of applause. Bright sir, your closing word.
tell them, please send me 10,000. So I would call clients, establish relationships with clients, and tell them, like right now, to set up a bigger workshop, we needed about, maybe I can say the figure just for them. It needed about 900,000. I've raised 400,000 from clients, calling them and telling them, hey, you, please buy for me, I'm setting up a bigger workshop. And people will always listen and buy. If you go to one person and ask them to give you 1 million, they will not give you. But when you reach out to different people, tell them, please buy 2 suits at 50,000, they will buy. You have to be creative about how you will raise those funds.
Fantastic.
Just one, and then I finish. Yeah, you have to be creative about how you raise those funds. And then again, try as much as possible to do work that is solving people's problems. You see, if you are in an industry, manufacturing is always solving people's problems, so you will always get work. And if you get work and you don't have enough capacity, please try and ask yourself, how can I grow? Then after I grow a bigger workshop, I grow a bigger office, because now wedding clients are not fitting in my office anymore. But you have to do with the small that you have and then grow from it. Always look at the opportunities as a way of you growing.
True. Thank you very much. Please, we can do better. She's given us everything, right? And for all the suit lovers in the room, like myself, we are buying from the starting line of fashion, Valerie, your last words.
Okay, I'll use my last words to maybe answer the question on monopoly as well as someone asked about how to scale a business that is handmade like crochet. It is very simple. You look at the practicability of it. For instance, for us, we are dealing with the women and youth who have not gone to school. They are semi-literate. To mean that you cannot give them hard concepts. So as you are looking at the items, the stuff that we already have as a complex thing, when we view it, when we are making our prototypes, we make sure that we put it into small bits. So we see it as small bits. Those small bits, we give each employee a portion to work on. So by the end of the day, if one is working on the sleeves only, another one is working on the collar, another one is working on the front, another one on the back, at the end of the day, you have finished an item while everybody has worked just a small bit. So you can make even 5 of those in a day. On the question of monopoly, if you want your items to be visible, to be seen by people, you have to get out there and put them in the digital media, in the social media, so that one time a friend of mine came to my shop and told me that he expected a very big shop, a very big industry. But when he came, he just found a store. And he realized that the kind of noise I make in the social media is so much that somebody would think that I'm even shipping the impression I create. So I'm yet to build my own industry, a large place. But the small bit is serving me so right, because the bigger shop is in the online business, is on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter as Crochet Hub Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, it's a wrap for the manufacturing. They are here with us till the end of this conference. Please, if you want to converse, exchange contacts, and mine is to say thank you so much, the panelists. Understand we need to show the world that we are here together. So we'll take a group photo and then Plan International would want to shake our hands. So thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. Thanks so much, Bwana Osedo, and thanks so much, the panelists, for that wonderful session. I've been informed the PS is on the way. He'll be here in the next 10 to 15 minutes. But looking at the program, we have one session to go. But this session is going to take a maximum of 30 minutes. Then after that, we will now invite the PS to close the event. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to take this opportunity to recognize the presence of the County Commissioner for Nairobi County, who is also going to be one of our panelists for this session. And at this point, I want to invite the moderator for the session, who is going to officially invite the County Commissioner to take the front seat and the other panelists. Karibu sana, Bwana Kevin Osido. Thanks so much.
Is it sanitized? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hamujambo. Habari za jioni. Ningependa tuamke kidogo, tufanye head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, knees and toes. The panel that just ended has done us a lot of very good justice, quite interactive. They also ensured that the gentleman at the last end of the seat did not doze off, and that was very encouraging. Thank you so much. Oh, I can see my former boss, Susan Karaoke. Now I feel very shy. All right, so we are going to do 2 seconds of head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Please make sure that you don't hit your forehead on the seats. Tafuta nafasi vizuri, sawa sawa? Let's go 1, 2, 3. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees, and toes, knees, and toes. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Thank you so much, Turazeketi. I recognize the presence of all of you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Very good work from Youth Agenda and partners to be able to, second time running, engage in this very constructive conversation around young people and how we can be able to ensure that we are at the center of the decision-making processes. And so as part of the conversations that have been going on, we want to have a discussion on how we can be able to be contributors to reduce barriers to youth employment. There are so many barriers that young people face that therefore deter them from engaging in opportunities and also getting employment in various sectors. Some of these include crime, drugs, alcohol and substance abuse, which have been propped as some of the top problems that confront our nation today. Mental health, of course, is one of those, including insecurity, and not to mention the gaps that young people face when it comes to skills within the labor market, and particularly how we can be able to also focus on the education sector. And so in addition to all the conversations that have been going on since we began this conference, we want to look at how can we as young people engaging with various decision makers be at the center of reducing these barriers that therefore affect the youth insofar as youth and employment is concerned. To take us through this particular conversation, we are going to be having the following panelists. One is Ms. Diana Sifuna, who is the CEO and Board Secretary of Jonathan Jackson Foundation and the founder of Diversity with Diana podcast that discusses inclusive diversity, good governance, and tech innovation, among other social issues in Kenya and Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up to Ms. Diana as she comes in. Thank you so much, Diana. Next, we'll also have Mr. Albert Miguela, who is a trained counseling psychologist. And as a psychologist, he says that he's been able to understand the emotions and feelings of people, and therefore being able to communicate effectively insofar as helping them to understand themselves. And currently, Albert is an emotional intelligence facilitator. He has passion in transforming the lives of young people and has also worked with numerous youth-led organizations with global and nationwide profiles to impact emotional intelligence. Let's give it up again for Bwana Albert. Thank you so much. We also have with us Mr. Deogratius Magero, who is a youth employment officer at Plan International. Deogratius. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have the one and only Ms. Flora Moroa, who is a county commissioner for Nairobi City County. Let's give it up for Madam Flora. She is going to help us understand some of these government programs, how we can be able to take advantage. And when a young person is arrested and taken to Industrial Area Police Station and is expected to report to work on Monday morning, what do you do with Friday Kamata Kamata? Ama namna gani? Si ni maswali nyeti ambayo tunataka atuelezee. Thank you so much, Madam County Commissioner, and all of us for taking our time to come and be part and parcel of this great conversation. So to start us off, I hope the microphones are now working. Can we just try each of them? We'll start with Bwana Albert. Yeah, she has one. So just greet the people that you can see, tell them, introduce yourself in a second. Anything that I did not say that you'd wish that our distinguished guests and participants are aware about. Albert.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kevin. Once again, my name is Albert Miguela. I define myself as a wellness creator. So as that, I do three things. One, I'm a counseling psychologist. I do offer counseling and psychosocial support with the Kenya Red Cross in the entire Nairobi County. Secondly, as an emotional intelligence coach and facilitator, I do hold trainings and consultancies with various institutions, both as mentioned at the global level and nationally. So for instance, I've held sessions with UNESCO, UNFPA, and Awareness 360, among others. And I'm also involved in certain aspects of mentorship, both at a national level and also at a community level. Besides that, I'm also involved in independent consultancies with a focus more on psychosocial support and emotional intelligence, with a focus on young people, that is young men, young girls, and increasingly the elderly and people living with disabilities. In addition to that, currently I'm the chairperson of communications and public relations at the Internet Society of Kenya, and I'm a founding member of UNESCO Youth Forum Kenyan chapter. Thank you.
Sasa unaweza semaje, and then you just give him like makofi ambayo imepimwa hivyo. Very good. Thank you so much. And we now confirm that the microphone is working, right? Ndugu kule nyuma, ulimsikiza vizuri? Haya, shukran. Next, Ms. Diana Sifuna.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diana Sifuna, and thank you, Kevin, for the introduction. I'm the CEO of the Jonathan Jackson Foundation, but previously I have served as the CEO of Youth Agenda, and so it's a pleasure to be back. I feel at home. I'm also a friend of the organization, that is the Youth Agenda. But why did I heed the call to come here today? It's because I'm a young person. I'm a youth. And why did I heed the call to be specifically in this panel? Because for a large part of last year, I was actually unemployed. Therefore, I will not talk from a position of maybe privilege or a position of no information, but I will talk from a position of experience. I've also been a student. I've been a student leader in the past, but now in my youth capacity, I've had the privilege of serving in the Youth Founding Board of the Denmark Embassy in Kenya. I continue to do so much work. That's not why we are here. We're here to say that we're here to have meaningful conversations. We're here to learn from each other, to see how to get out of that vicious cycle of unemployment, that vicious cycle of feeling underprivileged, and also to discourage that self-entitlement. To also discourage the self-entitlement that young people tend to have, where you think because you have a degree or a diploma or you have training, then you deserve to walk into somebody's office and get a job. We are here to encourage each other, and I look forward to good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana. And then we have the gracious.
I think I've been privileged to be here earlier on, but for the sake of those who are not here, my name is Deogratius Magero. I'm the Youth Empowerment and Employability Advisor at Plan International. We are here because Plan International has taken, through our new country strategy, a deliberate intention to collaborate and partner with young people in co-creating solutions and interventions to job creation, but most importantly, to collaborate and influence with government, private sector, skills providers, labor market service providers, as well as the young people at the center of it all, to be able to create an enabling environment for access to quality, decent jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so we listen to the County Commissioner.
Thank you, Kevin. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Flora Moroa. I'm the County Commissioner, Nairobi. I'm really delighted to be here this afternoon. Issues to do with the youth are very dear to me. First, because I'm a mother of 2 adults who are youth below 36 years. Number 2, I have been a youth myself. I understand what it means to be unemployed. I understand all the challenges of youth. And thirdly, I work for government. I coordinate national government activities, of course, in Nairobi County. That is my mandate. And I'm really glad to be here, and I'm ready to interact with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam County Commissioner. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, we want to move very, very fast so that we allow you to have a one-on-one with our panelists. And so I am going to be mindful of time and also request you to start preparing your thoughts around what questions you'd wish to ask. And I will ask the technical team to assign people who can be able to help us pass the microphones when we are done with this conversation with our panelists. So, Madam County Commissioner, you have said that one of your responsibilities is, of course, to coordinate national government agencies and functions. And looking at Schedule 4 of the Constitution, and particularly issues around safeguarding the interests of young people, one of the major challenges that the youth face, which is really societal, is crime, drugs, alcohol, and substance abuse. Enforcement, arrests, and discharge rest right at your doorstep. What are some of the measures that the government has put in place to reduce the high number of young people that are involved in drugs, crime, insecurity, and substance abuse?
Thank you, Kevin. First, let me say that involvement in drugs and crime, and particularly drug, is a personal choice at some point. Of course, sometimes when I interact with youth, many tell me that they are depressed, they are stressed, and that is why they get into drugs. And sometimes, even when we try our best, it becomes very difficult, because I have seen youth go for rehabilitation and still come out and go back to drugs. That's why I said sometimes, in some circumstances, it is a personal decision. Now, back to what the government is doing. First of all, you know, the government started an agency called NACADA, which is and they have very many opportunities at NACADA on trying to dissuade young people from using drugs. Of course, you know the use of drugs is a crime in our country. We have not yet legalized the use of bang, as has happened in some other countries. I know some people are pushing for that. If that time comes, well and good, but for now, the government is doing, through NACADA, a lot of programs, and many of them revolve around sensitization on the dangers of the use of drugs. Back in the church where I worship, because I have connections with NACADA, I kept inviting them to speak to young people about drugs until they came and told me they do not want to hear that anymore. That it is becoming too much, drugs every day. They need to hear, you know, something better. So sometimes also, you know, we invite youth to tell us how they want this to be done. And I believe a forum like this would be the best one, because sometimes we have tried ways through government that really don't work for youth. Yeah, and that's why we have such forums, so that you can let us know how you would like it done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Madam County Commissioner. And ladies and gentlemen, you have heard the County Commissioner asking for, you'll help us know how we can get it done and get it going. Madam Sisi, one of the challenges that young people are facing, and particularly what we see happening in our context today, is within institutions of education, where we have seen a lot of bannings of institutions, you know, going on. What is really happening, and how does this impact employability of the youth, particularly after they exit from high schools and even in other institutions of higher learning?
Thank you, Kevin. This is a very complicated issue, in that we would take a lot of time to discuss the whole matter. On Tuesday this week, we had a meeting with all the principals and Board of Management chairmen at Nairobi School to discuss the same. But what I would like the youth to know is that once you are been identified as one of the culprits in these activities, you destroy your career, because once your fingerprints have been taken by police, then obviously you will not be able to get a certificate of good conduct. And you know, most employers nowadays require you to have a certificate of good conduct. There are so many channels of young people airing their grievances. There is no justification for destroying facilities that have been built over time. And for me, or for government rather, anybody participating in such activity is a criminal. So we take it as a criminal activity. I mean, we are told there is a lot of pressure in school, there is so ABCD, but there is no justification. Let us train our people to communicate. Yeah.
Thank you so much. From the County Commissioner herself, she says there is no justification for us to ventilate, for us to find spaces that would be unconventional, and therefore met our anger and our frustrations in the manner that we are doing it. Albert, from a psychological perspective, do you think that, as a county commissioner says, that government is putting emphasis on certificate of good conduct, and that is really from a structural perspective? But from a social perspective, do you think that young people are finding enough spaces to be able to express and share their social challenges, such as the ones that we are talking about?
Wow, that's a very interesting question, Kevin. Do young people have enough social spaces to express this? I think first and foremost, if I talk about drug abuse is one of the major psychosocial issues, number one. And having said that, it's very sensitive, it's a very personal thing. So consequently, the space that one would be in would be a safe one, either in the comfort of a counselor's room, or in the comfort of a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist. But having said that, I think there's need to two things. One, there's need for continuous sensitization on those various issues, and in this case, as you've mentioned, the issues around drugs and substance abuse, but also the issues around safe spaces, okay? And safe spaces here, I mean a place where a young person can actually go and feel free to, you know, express him or herself or get the kind of support they need. Because having had some form of experience in safe spaces, and here I dare say, in as far as GBV is concerned, they're not as safe as they sound. I know in some spaces, because I do a lot of work in Mukuru, you end up paying for certain services, you know, either for the beddings and etc. So in as far as those can be addressed, in as far as those sites can be created, then it will be safe.
So insofar as those sites can be put together, insofar as the young people are willing to be helped, they can be assisted. Now, one of the things that the government has done is to be able to provide some of those opportunities, so that if you look at, for instance, the mental health policy 2015-2030, there are opportunities where young people are supposed to be assisted to access youth-friendly targeted interventions that would then help to enhance their resilience and mitigate risk factors. Because what we agree on is that how you present yourself as a young person, even to an employer, really matters a lot. And part of what government is doing is also to ensure that young people present themselves from a wholesome, total person. My next question to you, Albert, is what haven't we done right? The policies are in place. Probably, as you rightfully said, we need to ensure that those safe spaces are there. And I've seen in the audience, the director of Nairobi County Government, Mr. Wainaina, is here. And one of the things that the county government, particularly the Department of Youth, has been provided for is the establishment of the one-stop youth center, which is somewhere within the central business district. So the government is doing what it can be able to effectively put in place. But from your experience and engagement with the youth, what do they tell you that is lacking, and what do they recommend for us to be able to jump through some of these glass ceilings?
Kevin, first and foremost, mental health is a subject matter that has really gained momentum in Kenya, especially during the avid of COVID. And as you're aware, even the budgeting of mental health is pretty low. But having said that, I think for me, it's really more of what is a psychological experience, what psychological experience does one get either in the workplace or either in those safe spaces. Now, I would want to look at it in terms of even in the workplace, okay? Remember, in the workplace, there are certain things that you have to create a certain atmosphere for the work to take place, isn't it? One of them is issues around time, okay? So time is very key, because one knows once you have time, you're able to schedule and attain your goals and objectives within a specific period. The second thing is the aspect of social identity. Self-identity, in the sense that you need to feel that what you're doing is something that adds value to you, and you feel that you belong. The other thing would be a sense of collective responsibility and purpose, whereby in that space or in that work environment, you know you're not alone and you're working with people, therefore there's need to pull together and work together. The other thing is that such spaces also have activities. So these activities keep one busy on a day-to-day basis, and therefore even trying to maybe engage in other deviant vices or behaviors is reduced.
Thank you so much, Albert. Now, Diana, I wonder, when you listen to the conversation that we are having, issues around the challenges that young people face, and really a lot of the conversation that we are having right now is social challenges, without necessarily going into structural, conventional elements, that borrow from failures within policies and failures within the set frameworks. but really bringing down the conversation to what young people themselves can be able to do. And as a development partner who supports various groups, particularly special interest groups in the country, from what I know that you do, is aimed at ensuring that there is access to sustainable and dignified livelihoods, improvement of skills of young people, and creating scalable enterprises. And lastly is of course engaging in sports as a tool, and sports as a tool for change. Where do you think the government is not getting it right? What is it that we are not doing very well to be able to excite young people to want to be part and parcel of the conversation to change these policy gaps?
Thanks, Kevin, for the question. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. You know, Kevin and I come from this organization, the Youth Agenda. We worked here, and this is where, I think this is the history of us getting to know each other. And I must say that last year during this conference, I was of the opinion of whipping the government and, you know, making noise about what the government should do better. At the time, we were very sensational about the appointment of about the appointment of the NEA chairperson, which I know Power 254, I can see Power 254 here, and Siasa Place, among other youth-serving organizations that greatly and passionately contested against it. But I must say now, as a young person, my perspective changes every other day. Why? Because I'm always learning. So I wouldn't be coming here every single year to sing the same tune and make a huge assumption and pass it on to my fellow young people that the assumption is that government is not doing something substantive towards helping curb this problem. And I'm actually also just stringing in from what Madam County Commissioner has said, that they come to such forums to hear from us and hear what proposals we have so that they can take it back, make it into policy, and implement those policies to make it change. Now, again, addressing the young people here, remember I said I've come here for a conversation. Na mimi pia ni kijana. So how many of you are unemployed right now? How many are unemployed? Remember, I was unemployed between March and December last year. So among those of you who are unemployed, how many of you know about the National Employment Authority? Okay, good. That's a good number. So how many of you have registered on that portal to become a youth that is seeking employment? Then I'm only seeing two hands on this side. How many? Only, so 3. I see 3, 4. Okay. This is my point. When I was preparing for this conference and coming here, I first of all listened to what I said last year. Then I said, this year, what are we going to discuss about employment? We can't be singing the same tune. There now has to be a part of responsibility that we take as young people who are unemployed to say that what opportunities have been put there for us to access. I know the previous panel discussed about the role of government in employment. It is not to create jobs, it is to create an enabling environment. But there is an article in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights that you've alluded to, Chapter 4, Articles 55B and 55C, that actually mandates the government's responsibility to ensuring that we have access to employment opportunities. Now, those employment opportunities have actually been enacted. We have the National Employment Authority. Then as young people, only 4 of us here, out of the many that have said are unemployed, have signed up to that portal. So then who do we blame? Exactly. Thank you for that. That's very candid. So let us also blame ourselves. If you've not explored that opportunity, so that you come to such a forum and say, I have been unemployed for 8 months, I went to the portal, I put in my information, I put in my qualification and my credentials, and then 12 months have passed and I've not gotten a single opportunity. Then you have cause to make noise, right? So I'm hoping that we are also hearing that there are some of the opportunities that government has opened to us that we have not explored. Now, I want to talk about a special interest group which I currently work with. So I work with the Jonathan Jackson Foundation, and most of the young people we deal with are in Nairobi County, most of whom have been in conflict with the law. So they don't fit the bill that Madam Sisi had mentioned earlier. They have already served time in prison. They have already abused drugs. they are really very, very vulnerable. And guess what? When you go to the urban populations within Nairobi County, you know, I would consider us somewhat of an elite group. Why? Because most of us have a certificate training, a diploma, a degree, masters. Some of you might even be doing PhDs, if I'm not wrong. But what about that person that dropped out of school in class 2? Or maybe that mama mboga that dropped out of school in Form 2, and she's still under 35. Is she a youth? Yes. The ladies that come to clean your houses, are they still youth? Do they deserve a chance in society to be able to afford good health care for their kids, good education for their kids, and so on and so forth? Therefore, those are the people that we actually work with at the foundation. And we're designing programs. So the foundation is very young. We started in February of 2019. I joined them in December of 2019, and we're in Nairobi County. I've already seen an expression of interest from one of the Nairobi County staff members that have expressed that we need to work together. We're saying this because when you go to the community, we won't even use English. I have even had to change my language. I think Youth Agenda would come to conferences and we're speaking, you're in the devolution conference, you're sitting with the former prime minister, you're sitting with the president, and you can articulate your points in English. But what about those young people that can't do the same? So therefore, I find it my responsibility to not only talk to you and tell you, you who have privilege, you who have education, and you know about opportunities that the government has put forward. If you want to complain about you being unemployed and you go on Twitter and make abuses towards government, I am no longer in that camp. I have left that camp. I would rather then serve the ones who do not even have access to smartphones or access to opportunities. They are disadvantaged because they cannot have that police clearance that Madam Sisi mentioned. So first of all, let us acknowledge our responsibility. If you have gotten a decent chance to get education, be it whatever level, get out there. I'm really encouraged by the panelist that was here before, who told us about her story in joining manufacturing and having had to expand her business. Those are the stories that I hope you will take home. And my assumption, again, as a youth advocate, is that when I empower one of you, or when you're inspired by, when this panel inspires one of you, that you go back out there and inspire 10 other people. Why I created my podcast is because I wanted to inspire more than just the 10 people that I would normally inspire. And I would hope that you would actually hop onto that podcast platform. It's called Diversity with Diana. I speak about diversity not just in terms of race, gender, age. I also speak about it in terms of different let's say, learning abilities, different physical abilities. If you go to the platform, you will learn more about it. But here to say that, guys, hatuwezi pigia kelele serikali kila mara. Sometimes we have to look back and say, what can I change, right? Yes, thank you very much. I hope I've somehow touched on what you said.
Sure, definitely. And as you talk about special interest groups, and you mention wale vijana ambao pengine washapitia mkono wa serikali, fingerprints zimechukuliwa, and then suddenly there is this big advert by Ministry of Treasury or Planning or by county government for kazi kwa vijana, or Youth Enterprise Development Fund is asking for young people, most of them who would probably be here, to make applications, and they know about individuals who are still youth, who are scared of accessing these opportunities because pengine I had messed up someday, and so government has my fingerprints. Maybe I was taken for one of the Kamata Fridays. How do you encourage this kind of a vulnerable young person to take advantage of some of these opportunities? And what will how will your foundation work with this kind of vulnerable young people?
Okay, thank you for the question. We actually work with young people, all kinds, including yourselves, who are in registered groups. So you must be in a registered groups. The youths who have been previously in conflict with the law are actually allowed to form groups as well. We have Mneti Huru, we have Congo Youth Group, we have many of them. We have Team Change, Resist Crime, which is in Kawangware, and actually our Kawangware is our base as a foundation in terms of working with our programs. We encourage them, first of all, if you're in a registered group, that means that there is a responsibility or an accountability that your fellow group members would take upon you. Why? When you form a youth group and maybe you're 8 members or you're 10 members, among you, you will select a chairperson, you'll select a treasurer, and then you'll select a chairperson, treasurer, and who else? And a secretary, right, to record the minutes and keep the record of what is being discussed. Once you do that, you start forming a habit or you start learning skills that otherwise you would not have learned. Whether you're a class 2 dropout, whether you've been in prison for 8 years because you are a juvenile criminal and then you got out much later, you will still have a chance of learning how society organizes itself. I'm telling you, in fact, I think if you guys invite me next year, I will personally take responsibility of sponsoring some of those youths so that you come and see them. Honestly, thank you. The point at which they departed from the values that govern society is very small. It is poverty. I will not even sugarcoat it. It is poverty. It is that a young person whose parent is somewhere working so hard or left to go to Mombasa to do a job and they've left them under the care of a guardian who has other 12 children in the household, went out and was so hungry and he decided to break into a car and was caught. If you listen to some of their stories on why they committed crime in the first place, it is so sad that surely we must acknowledge that there's some form of favor or God's favor or privilege that you had not to have been in that situation. And therefore that's why I feel like there is a duty of care, not just to the public officials or the government, also to us as development sector workers and even to you guys as just Kenyan citizens. A duty of care towards such people. Number one, to show them compassion, then teach them how to organize as a society. So if you hear that this youth group is for Team Change, Resist Crime, and you look at them and they look a bit brutish, but if you sit down and you treat them with respect and you talk to them, they will be respectful back to you and they will want to learn more. What have we done to them? And not to be any political, but I'll just tell you. To the Congo youth group, we gave them 2 wheelbarrows. Now for the 2 wheelbarrows that we gave them, they have been able to be doing small businesses of taking the handcart from point A to point B, you get your 50 shillings. Out of that 50 shillings, once they collect it or they accumulate it, some of the money is given to the youth group members who actually did the task. The rest of the money is put in the revolving kitty around them. What have we done to the one in Mathare? In Mathare, we've given them a water tank. These are very small investments of 80,000 shillings. That water tank has become a water point for them. Slowly, because of learning how to organize and coordinate back and maybe integrate back to society, they've been able to have a revolving fund kitty. They bought a water pump. Now they clean cars. Not only do they sell water, I know selling water is also a controversial issue, but they clean cars, and then they also now do the cleaning services to some of the flats and the residential places that there is in Mathare. Such are the small things that happen that we do in terms of intervening and working with them. So we don't work with a young person on their own, we work with them in that manner. Then slowly, once you accumulate work experience, even if it is just the manual work, then you get a recommendation from an institution maybe that is non-governmental, and I'm sure government doesn't turn them away. In fact, this Dagoretti North constituency, he's the current member of parliament, but a former founding member of the Youth Agenda. He actually works close with those youth groups that are very vulnerable. Among them we include, of course, the ones that have been serving time in prison, and he works closely with them. So we can't say that government excludes them. It is for us to encourage them to form groups so that they start talking about these matters. Some of them still struggle. We have a meeting with them today, and then you come a week later and some of them have cuts on their heads or they have stitches done. Then this one did something over the weekend. Then you sit down and ask him, what is the problem? And based on the work we've done with young people of all backgrounds, and happy to see a psychosocial support professional here, we've actually now partnered with Kubamba Trust, which is Kubamba is like a religious institution, but really not. They do ministry or they do missionary work. They are actually 20 years old, and now within each program we do, whether we are giving you a donation of capital goods, whether we are giving you funding to start your business, these are the small businesses within the youth groups in the communities. We actually ensure that you go through mentorship and psychosocial support from Kubamba Trust, which is the partner that does the implementation.
Thank you.
So we do engage with them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Magero, Diana has just shared part of what the foundation that she works with does with young people. And one of the points that she mentioned is the place of skills. And Plan International has engaged with government agencies that seek to, provide opportunities for young people, including even influencing the education curriculum and some of these policies that border on education and also scalability of the youth. If, as Kevin Osido, I presented myself to you as a first-time job seeker, with the wealth of experience that your organization has, how would you prepare me for the employment opportunity as a first-time job seeker? Of course, noting that probably they have fears, they have an expectations that they want to fill, and they're not so sure about how to go about them. From the experience that you have, how would you advise Kevin as a first-time job seeker to prepare for an employment opportunity?
Thanks, Kevin. Plan International has for a long time been known in child protection, sponsorship of young people, rather children education, but also girl-child advocacy. However, there are a number of youth projects around skills and opportunities for employment and entrepreneurship, projects that we've conducted and we still do and now are strongly conducting to enable young people, grow as job seekers or job creators, and also influence players in the sector such as government, private sector, and others to create an enabling ecosystem for quality jobs. And if you are to ask me how we prepare, of course, understanding how a development organization works, we have specific programs that we run or projects that drive skills acquisition and linkage to employment opportunities. You probably might have seen one there, Hyundai Dream Center. That is a partnership between Plan International, Hyundai, and the Korean government, South Korea, I think, to enable young people at NITA who are very vulnerable from different communities across the number of counties to actually learn how to make and repair electric cars. These are fully sponsored courses that we are supporting young job seekers. Most of them are vulnerable young women, a person who cannot even express themselves. And our responsibility, since NITA will offer the technical training, is to build the agency and enable that young person stand up for themselves, build those life skills, and then expose them. But we go a notch higher through engagement with NITA, TVETA, and relevant agencies to then influence both at policy level, but also the private sector at entry-level job opportunities to say these young people have the right skills regardless of the background they are coming from. But by the time we get to these young people, we have other advocacy projects. Some of the amazing young people here are coming from projects such as what we call She Leads. She Leads is a project that is building amazing young leaders from the communities you've just mentioned. Some of them defined as vulnerable, some of them defined as misfits in the society, and they stand up. And when they are able to articulate and present themselves and develop the agency, we then connect them to our TVET and skills training programs, such as the Hyundai Center. There's another one we work with Kenya Association of Manufacturers and the GIZ to take them to TVETs across different counties. I'm going to mention the 10 counties we work in, for them to get the relevant skills, but we go a notch higher to connect them or link them up to employment. But we understand that not every young person, people in communities, maybe Kajiado or whichever communities, are actually keen or able to learn, just like the ones you've talked about, dropouts. So we have what we call VSLAs. These are Village Savings and Loaning Associations that we work in different counties like Machakos, Kilifi, Kwale, Kajiado, where the organized youth groups, the organized young women groups are actually supported to start, little savings within their community levels. And they are also given startup kits as well as entrepreneurship knowledge and skills, because we understand that they may not be open to go into, education. I think there was a question, or rather there was a concern around where is Plan working. So let me just mention that, then I close this. We are working in 10 counties at the moment. That is Kisumu, Kajiado, Kilifi, Kwale, Nairobi, Tana River, Machakos, Siaya, and Tharaka Nithi. but I'm also a young person. So beyond being an advisor in youth empowerment and employment, I'm also an impact investor. Yeah. And so I invest and support and mentor young people. And when I believe in the ability for them to scale up their businesses,
thank you.
We have a pool that we invest in them. So thanks.
Asante. Tumpigie makofi moja tafadhali. So thank you so much, our panelists. I'll be getting back to the County Commission on a follow-up question because of some of the expectations of our young people here. But we also take note of the fact that not every young person wants to be employed. Ama namna gani? Si ni ukweli? We've just been listening to very progressive individuals who've shared with us how they have opened up companies and how they are, groping in that darkness to try and find meaning out of what they can be able to do, and quite very encouraging and inspiring stories. So we are coming to you, our audience, anyone with a question, and as we also recognize the presence and arrival of our PS, Bwana Saitoti Torome, karibu sana, and we thank God for getting you safely here. So we already have 2 questions. Yeah, and I hope, as I mentioned earlier on, that our technical team is already out there with the microphones. So we have 3 questions already. We have a lady here, then we'll have a gentleman here, and another lady right at the 3rd row seat. So please, your name, tell us your name, which county, probably what you do. Thank you, Winnie. Winnie, we have okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda. I hope my voice is audible. My name is Linda. I come from Kisumu County. Good evening.
Yes.
My name is Linda Jakandangu. I come from Kisumu County. I am a mental health activist. I'm the founder and CEO of Solidarity with Youth in Distress Youth Group. I thank the commissioner for coming, and I thank the panelists for bringing mental health. I'm very happy that mental health now is regarded as one of the barriers for one to be employed or get work. But I have questions and also have inputs. Yeah, we talked about mental health. First of all, I'd really like us to emphasize of what mental health is. It's basically because I believe there's no much awareness when it comes to mental health. Mental health is not basically the idea in people say
umechizi.
Mental health is just basically, for example, I'll use an example of a layman's
and you help us by making it very short and brief, so that we can, yeah.
So I'll say mental health is basically the ability where an individual is able to notice his or her own capabilities and able to cope in a stressful situation and belong in a community. Like, for example, if I have an interview and I'm supposed to go to an interview and I don't know what I'm going to be asked, I'll start having anxiety. Anxiety is already a mental health disorder. So sitting there and saying that you refer to them as drug abusers, they are not drug abusers. They are people with substance abuse disorders. People who take alcohol or even take alcohol is not a drug addict. We refer to it as a disorder. That is a mental health condition, you see. And we cannot say that mental health condition, people who, I'll use a scenario of banning schools. Fine.
Very briefly, because when I come back, we will switch off your mic, eh?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
First, it's a criminal act, but we also need to know that people with mental health conditions end up being being criminals, yeah? For example, when they ban schools, they have mental health disorders. We really need to emphasize what is not happening. Why are the public schools are the ones being banned and not private? It is basically because most of the private schools have counselors in the facilities, in the schools. But most of these schools, the public schools, they really don't have counseling psychologists.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments. Tumpigie kofi moja. Asante sana. We have picked a very important point from your presentation, and that is really that we also look at the space of counselors in our public schools. So I am hoping that the rapporteurs and the people who are working on the outcome document are listening very keenly. Thank you so much for your comments. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. My name is Honorable Christopher Alvin Mokaya. I serve as the Deputy Regional Associate for Youth Alliance for Leadership and Development in Africa, that's YALDA. It deals with youth affairs. I also been mentoring with the Emerging Leaders Foundation. I am actively also running for the office of the President of the Republic of Kenya, amongst many other things.
Well done.
So, I want to commend the panelists for the very insightful remarks. I also want to mention something. Which has not featured so much, and this is my fellow youth. Every time you want to get an opportunity, be open to volunteering. Some opportunities can be unlocked through the spirit of volunteering, because if you come to be a volunteering organization or somebody's organization for the next 3 months, when there is a job in that organization, they are not going to advertise for that job because you've shown what you can do. So for most young people, we want to work for the money. So that is my little advice to you. And thank you now to Madam County Commissioner for the very good advice. But this is, respectively, I would like to disagree on the point that the drug and substance abuse is a personal issue, because some factors drive people into those drugs. So my question to you would be, because the Ministry of Interior is represented across the 7 counties and as grassroots leaders through the sub-chiefs, the chiefs, the Yubakumi and all that, with a very elaborate mashinani network, what are you doing to ensure alternative livelihood activities like simple jobs in the village are given to these young people, so that when they are more engaged, they are not they don't get lured into drugs? I'm sure we can do the empowerment to prevent them from getting into drugs, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Tumpigie kofi moja. Please, ukiuliza swali ama kama unapeana maoni, assume you are speaking to the president and you only have 2 minutes to make your point.
Mine is a brief comment. A very brief comment.
Okay.
As you have said. My name is Ndong Evans. I've been an alumni of Plan. First, I want to say that a year ago, we started a foundation with a friend of mine. It's called Legal Space Africa, where we have taken an opportunity as law students, actually to educate the youths, especially because some of the things we demand for them because it's either ignorance of the law, or if we know the law, we don't know how to interpret it. So we actually unpackage most of those things. And just to say one follow-up comment on what she said, that when you look at the current constitution as
on what, who said?
On, I can't remember her name.
Diana, okay.
On what Diana said.
Because we have 2 she's.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. There are 2 types of rights under our current constitution. There are rights that will require immediate realization. Like if you say as a youth you are entitled to right to life, nobody can deprive you of that life unless there are compelling circumstances under those limitations. But there are certain rights that are progressive in nature, like what she said, access to employment. You can't go to court today and tell the court to give you an order compelling the government to employ you, because it is a progressive, it needs progressive realization. There are certain legislative measures that the government needs to show that at least they have taken a step. So I think from a point of understanding, we also need then to unpackage certain things so that we understand what we are talking about, including right to health. There are certain social economic rights under Article 43 that have been derived from international instruments and cannot be achieved overnight.
So what we are going to do with you, tumpigie kofi moja. What we are going to do with you, my brother and friend, is I'm going to ask my law lecturer to invite you for a visiting lecture so that you can come and unpackage Article 43. We'll call it Unpackaging Article 43. Sivyo itakuwa sawa ndugu? Very good. There was a lady with yes, now there are 2 hands. But please, if it is a question, just introduce yourself, who you are, and then ask. And I want to ask the technical team to switch off the mics. Ikifika 2 minutes, let it just be off. Please proceed.
My name is Lynette from Plan. I was asking about the criminal records of youths. Is it possible for the offenders that did not commit a big crime to at least get removed from the system so that opportunities cannot pass them by because of a little offense that they did, maybe when they didn't know better, for lack of a better word?
Thank you. Ili jambo la crime, I think, is a big issue here. Eh? Now, before you leave, if you know you have something you've done against the law, please talk to the county commissioner. Pengine anaweza kukuandikia barua ya kukupea nafasi. But I hope that our panelists are taking note of the questions. Then we'll have a round to respond, then we can close. Yes, please.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Charlene Otieno from Siaya County, and my question goes to Madam CC. I have two questions. The first question is, why is it youth? Not every youth will come to your office, smell harufu hiyo mzuri. Some youth go to the offices, ako mchafu because hawezi afford kufanya kitu, anakuja maybe na idea yenye inaweza saidia youth. You are chasing that guy, unamwambia chokora wewe enda ujivae kwanza ndio kuje kwa ofisi yangu. That's in Ngao offices. And if I speak Ngao offices, you understand which office I'm talking about.
National Government Administrative Offices.
Because of my security ndeza shikwa nikiwa.
Lakini sasa unajua, this is a county commissioner Nairobi. You have a county commissioner Siaya who is also a lady, isn't it?
Nairobi have
Okay.
in Apple, imeishia Apple.
Okay, sawa, endelea.
Then another question comes to about counseling and mentorship. What are you doing in counties to help youth in terms of counseling? Kwa sababu si eti youth wote wanaweza kuja Nairobi kupata mentorship. Si ni ukweli? Mbona mtusaidie hapo? That's my question.
Thank you, tumpigie kofi. Very good. We are closing this, and I see very many hands coming up. Sasa mnapata motisha. Okay, let's go back, Winnie, to the is it lady or gentleman? The gentleman at the back of the room. Then we'll come here, and then we finish at the front. Yes. Please make it short, eh?
Yes, very brief. Good afternoon. My name is Arnold Gekonge from Youth Champions for Sustainable Development Goals. And I have two things. First, Diana, thank you so much for sharing that aspect of sustainability and ensuring that when you provide resources or raw materials to young people or to people who are getting into business or creating employment opportunities, that they get back the income and get to sustain themselves, that it goes back to the business. Secondly, Mr. Albert, could you tell us whose role is it to ensure mental health? And for this specific one, you can address young people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Very clear, direct questions. Okay, yes. Do you have a microphone? So we have our panelist. Then we go to the lady in red, then we'll close with Njeri. Here, on your left. Yeah. You had a very inspiring story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So mine is not a question. Mine is just a quick comment on mental health. I'll give you an example of Richard Branson. He struggles with dyslexia. I'm a Kamba, don't worry. So, and Richard says that's one thing that motivated him to create his world, because he delegated a lot of work and he only focuses on the creative side of his company. Myself, I struggle with anxiety. If you follow me on Facebook, I share my story, I share my struggles. And entrepreneurs struggle with a lot of anxiety. So for young people who are here, if you struggle with any mental health, there are two choices. You can either focus to use it to do something positive or to do something negative. If you use your anxiety to build a brand or something, you know, if I don't do this, I'll become anxious, then you will grow a very serious brand. If you use it to steal, then you will end up in bars. So you choose how you use your weaknesses and struggles. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes,
Then we'll close with Njeri from Power 254.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Edith Sergon, a student at the University of Nairobi, doing anthropology from Baringo County. I'm a founder of...
Your Baringo mate wants to clap for you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a founder of an organization known as Young Women for Baringo, together with my two friends. But right now it's 2 months old. We're like almost 1,000 who have joined. We've been doing most of the things that Plan International have just realized they have been doing, beginning from the teenage pregnancies, the drug awareness, and so on. So my question is, how is Plan International creating a safe space for this child culture in the deep patriarchal society that we are living in today? The second thing is a comment. I'll just ask you if you can also work in Baringo County with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Njeri Mwangi from Power 254. And my question is to the CC and maybe to a lot of us here. Power 254 works with artists from all over the country, so we have thousands and thousands of them. But one of the challenges that we've had with our work is that every time we get calls by youth that have been arrested for trying to do a performance in the street, for taking photos, I mean, stuff that we have not been told we should not and cannot, yeah? And people get arrested left, right, and center. So it is with the city council, it is with police, and when we're talking about youth trying to self-employ, yeah, we said a lot of us are not employed, and not everybody wants to be employed. But then even the methods of how then do I employ myself, a lot of youth have joined Power 254, a lot of artists, so to speak. But yet, even the things that we try to do and try to work with county government, and not just Nairobi, so this is not just for you in Nairobi, so this is even for other counties. How do we work with you so that we help youth to self-employ and to find creative things with their time? Because art is something that all of us enjoy, whether we are consuming it from reading a book, watching a movie, listening to music, that's where we go to decompress, so to speak. But then the people who are creating these arts, we don't have safe spaces to do this. We don't have physical spaces to do this. And the little spaces that are available, we either have to pay too much for them, we don't have a place where we can just come and congregate and train and produce and create something. So is it possible for the counties, not just the county of Nairobi, but for counties to allocate spaces, and we are so many youth in the arts, not just one little space, but big spaces that we can do our performances and learn from each other and mentor and stay away from these vices that we keep saying, oh, drug abuse and psychological and stress and all these things. Most of these things, if we let the artists or if we let people just channel their energies into the arts, I think we'll see a decrease of, because there's support there and there's fun and there's healing. It's therapeutic as well. So just maybe you can address that and you can take that back to the counties.
Thank you. Tupigie Njeri coffee. You know, Njeri was my mom in campus. Thank you for taking good care of me. A difference of just 1 year. She was second year, I was first year together with Susan. They were in the same class. So thank you for teaching me good English, Susan Karaoke. As, nimechapa. Na bado ako fresh. Have you seen her riding on the roads of Nairobi, Nakuru? As our panelists are organizing to respond to these questions, quite fundamental, very important, there's a Director of Youth, Nairobi County, the Department of Youth Affairs, Mr. Wainaina. The question that Njeri is raising is very fundamental, that touches on what you are doing with the county government and young people. In 1 minute, what are the successes of One Stop Youth Center? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Osido, and I've been listening keenly since morning, and there's quite a lot of opportunities that, from what has been mentioned by different partners, but even the young people who are here, that we can leverage as a county. And specifically to answer, probably to respond to Njeri's input, the county, One Stop is just one of the youth spaces that is in town within CBD that is available for young people. Unfortunately, probably the visibility has not been very public, so quite a number of young people are not aware. But one of the things we are doing currently, I heard something about policy being mentioned. The county is developing a youth policy for Nairobi, and the issues about creativity, the issue of youth spaces, the issues about drug and substance abuse, etc., are actually captured in that policy. And we are looking at that will be a good framework for engagement, not just with young people, but even with youth stakeholders. And I know we've been engaged with Power 254 even in that process. So maybe it's something that we can pick up, not just here, but even once that policy has been approved, we are really open to see opportunities of implementation. So I don't want to take a lot of time, but the county is open. Our Waziri, I think she was even to join us. She's very open to partner with different stakeholders in the youth space. So feel free to engage us. And we look forward probably to even invite some of you when we'll be launching that policy. Asante.
Thank you so much. Bwana Wainaina, tumpigie kofi moja. Thank you. I hope that we are ready and set to respond. Quest, there was an issue about counties. And Kenya School of Government, at least from point of information, County Governance Watch engages a lot with county governments. And we have met in the corridors of very many county government offices, trying to influence county youth action plans, spaces for government engagement with the youth. Do you think that the counties are open in the era of security and the infrastructure of security? People taking photos around tall buildings. Do you think that that is a point that you can be able to pick up and influence spaces for creativity for young people in the county governments? Peter Quest.
Thanks a lot, Kevin, for that. I was actually concerned when Jerry spoke, and I was very happy about that. One, before I go to that level, is that if you're a young person, you're a creative, and you want to really use a space, you can come to Kenya School of Government. Over the weekend, I don't think the activity is here. And no one will really charge you ukikuja kufanya activities. As long as you write a letter mapema, is booked in, you will not be charged anything. That is something I want to really tell you.
Thank you.
Our work as Kenya School of Government was to work with the development partners in setting up the safer space across the country. Recently, we launched Isiolo Youth Innovation Center. It's one of the most proactive youth centers. It serves over 200 young people in a day. So it's actually, I remember when the PS for Sunkuli for Youth was actually sent some people to do benchmarking. We were with CS Mosheru. It's a model that we can actually replicate. So currently, we're working with His Excellency Godana in Tana River. Is converting our whole VTC center to one of the model youth innovation centers. So I think, one, there is opportunity for young people. The issue is how do we collaborate with the county government? The commissioner is here, the county commissioner is here. In terms of security, I don't think there's anyone who can give security than the county commissioner.
Sure.
So what we need to do in Nairobi is identify a place, and I was talking to Anaina, one of the critical things we need to talk with the current governor is to find a space in Nairobi, renovate to become one of the model, better than even Rwanda Youth Innovation Center, where all the young people across the walks can actually come, do their things, they're not charged, they're engaged like what 254 is doing. So I think the government is really committed, and I believe even without the blessing of the PS who is currently seated here, there's a lot of goodwill from the government.
Yeah.
I was just sharing with some of the PS's PA, I was saying that one day I walked to Kenya School of Government, and I convinced them that we can actually have a youth center here. It took 8 months, but it worked.
Yeah.
So I believe it's possible. Thank
you.
So much.
So our very honorable panelists, we have had questions, comments, and issues from our very distinguished participants and youth leaders from across the country. What is your word, Deogracious, as you respond to the questions, if any, that was probably addressed to you, and then as you also make your closing remarks? And that's really the cue that we are going to take. Thank you.
Thank you. I can use that. I'm not sure if it's my voice or something. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Plan International just launched a new country strategy, and I hope all of us have gotten a copy of this, because sometimes when you ask, how do I engage, I would challenge a Kenyan to read and then come back and say, on these 4 pillars, I see an opportunity based on the kind of work I'm doing. But of course, there's an amazing, rather an interesting question asked around how are we supporting, or maybe enabling safer spaces for young women and girls. The country strategy here has a bold goal. It is 2022 to 2026, 5-year. Our bold goal is ending teenage pregnancies and all other forms of violence against girls and young women. But that cannot be done without us realizing that employment is a sure means of livelihoods for communities, families, and young people, whether it's self or waged employment. And that is why when we run projects in the communities, such as I mentioned She Leads, we also have safe and inclusive projects. We are saying that our young people will lead in creating safer spaces. We give them the relevant skills for advocacy, but beyond that, we connect them to skills providers and opportunities for linkage to either employment or supporting their businesses with startups. But the bigger picture is unlocking potential of these young women, especially girls. Beyond that, we also influence policies. Right now, we are happy to be supporting, to some extent, the development of Nairobi Youth Development Policy. Our support is only anchored on the fact that the young people have to be on the table. And that's why you see young people here, including the amazing lawyer speaking. He was sponsored by Plan way from like nursery school, and not just him. There are amazing others there. The bottom line is we cannot direct what happens, but we want young people to sit at those tables and contribute. And that is among our conditions of supporting these processes. As I finish, we also, of course, have supported the newly adopted child protection policy, because we are saying that children eventually become young people. If they continue being vulnerable, they eventually become the people we start getting worried about them getting into crime. Among the pillars we're also supporting is access to information and services on sexual reproductive health with information. So basically what we are saying is we are ready to do business with young people, because young people are not part of the system, the young people are the system. So county government, KSG and the rest of us, let's join hands and create those safe spaces, and we are happy to work with you to create those innovatively safe spaces. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Albert.
The question that was directed to me was, it's mental health, it's whose business to know mental health? I think as young people, it's our business to know mental health. Because as you're aware, mental health is something that's affecting us. There are so many mental health issues that are arising or that are there, from stress, depression, and even suicide. So the thing is for us to know what are the early signs, what are the causes, and what can you do to mitigate them. Aside from that, let's remember, in as far as we are living in this world called life, we'll always have stressors, where it is lack of employment, where it is issues around GBV, where it is issues around relationships. We'll always have daily stressors. The issue is not the stressors, but it is how you cope with them. So it is incumbent upon us to identify and develop positive coping mechanisms, so as to be productive and to take care of our well-being. But having said that, I would like to also emphasize something. There's something we call the wheel of life. You may know it. And the wheel of life addresses key components that constitute us as human beings. And they are as follows. One, the physicality, which addresses our body in terms of nutrition and exercise. Secondly is the psychological or the emotional that addresses our thoughts and our feelings. Thirdly is social, how we interact and relate with people. Fourthly is our environment. We need to be concerned and take care of our environment. Fourthly is spirituality. We need to get that nourishment, you know, it helps us. And finally, with all due respect, financial. Yes, it's important to also address that, because remember, all these are stressors and they affect us. So remember, at the end of the day, all those things I've mentioned, you may not necessarily be 100% at them, but it's important to see how best we can balance them. As I conclude, it's very important, especially as young people, to be very clear on your purpose and your vision in whatever it is that you're doing. Because remember, your vision and your purpose is what is going to determine your actions. In as far as you're not clear on your purpose and your vision, you'll just be wandering on this planet and you'll not achieve much. So it's very important, one, to identify that, and if not, identify people who will guide you towards that direction. And when you do that, you'll be a more productive and effective person. And when it comes to work and working, I'm going to emphasize 3 things. Remember, out here, there are 3 things that will make you successful at work. They're as follows. 1, your skills. What skills are you bringing to the table? Number 2, your work ethic. How do you work well with people? When you're told you need to submit something at a specific timeline, you should not get upset or irritated. You need to be able to deliver. Thirdly, maturity. You must be mature in how you relate and engage with people. Because remember, out here, people will judge you not by what you say, but by what you do. And as I conclude on self-confidence, I know I'm emphasizing self-confidence because I know many young people are going through issues around self-confidence. Self-confidence, I have what I call my 3 C's. And my 3 C's are content, context, and communication. Your self-confidence will be emphasized by 1, information that you have. 2, your context, where you are. 3, communication, what you say verbally and how you present yourself. All those 3 will end up building your self-confidence and a sure ticket to your success. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Albert?
Thank you. I don't think I had a question, although there was Arnold that acknowledged the work I do at the foundation, which is to economically empower the special interest group, and these are the youths who've been previously in conflict with the law. But I just want to wrap up before Madam Sisi speaks in highlighting what was said that lacked maybe in the panel discussion today about the importance of volunteering. I think I'm just saying it. Nasema, volunteering is very important, so I don't have to really go deep in it. And then there's something that the previous panelist had also mentioned, which is, and it has been mentioned by someone in this session, that not every person is looking for employment. True. But when you're also an entrepreneur, remember you'll have to employ people. And speaking, and us hearing from what the young entrepreneur said, she said what? Her hardest task is not even mobilizing the resources for expanding her business. It is managing the people. It is people management, right? So, and you've just heard what again the psychologist has said, or the psychosocial support expert has said. Working with people is very important. So mental health is important because you can actually walk through, do an interview and get the job. And then do you get to keep it after the 3 months of probation? That is also another thing, right? Or you're the entrepreneur. You have someone and you recruit the best skill in the market, and then what happens after 3 months? They leave. Or maybe they stay up to 6 months and then they resign. Why? Because you're not a good employer. So let's think beyond the box. The greatest thing that I also will take away, because I came to learn, I'll take away from the entrepreneur who has told us her journey and her spirit, really inspired by it, and she said keep an open mind. Therefore, no matter how much knowledge you're picking from this session, when you go out there, remember the context. remember that you have to think and be in the present and then learn how to respond in that matter. Sawa. Feel free to reach to me, to us, to the Jonathan Jackson Foundation. We only work with young people that are organized. Currently, we're working in 5 counties, in Garissa County, Tharaka Nithi, Kisumu, Migori, and Nairobi. So you're all welcome to join the Jonathan Jackson Foundation network. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Diana. There were several questions that were directed to me. Unfortunately, my friend has left, but he asked what the government is doing to make sure that youth are engaged so that they don't get into drugs, isn't it? So, of course, I believe the team here knows about all the youth programs in the Ministry of Youth. You know, the Youth Enterprise Fund and stuff like that, but of course, maybe those are not services that many of the youth, particularly in the informal settlements, are able to access. But we have the Kazi Mtaani, which we started during COVID to caution our youth against the ravages of COVID. And that program is being brought back. You remember the President, His Excellency, announced that during Mashujaa Day. And starting today, we are encouraging youth, skilled and unskilled, to register for that program. This time around, people are registering online. Of course, we are in discussion in the Ministry of Housing in consideration that some people are not even able to access internet, so that they are able to register using other means. This is a program that was able to give employment to 55,000 youth, particularly in the informal settlements last time. That is the most basic that we are able to do as government for now, because you don't need any collateral. In many instances, you don't need any skills. So that program is up, and very soon we will be having Kazi Mtaani in progress. But let me say this. I was here in Nairobi when we did the first and the second phases of Kazi Mtaani, and the challenges that we faced are enormous with the youth. I am happy at what my brother has just said, because we had to sack very many youth. Many of them could not even report to work on time. Many of them would go to their working places and sit down with their phones throughout until when somebody appears. I mean, a lot of unethical behavior from our youth. So sometimes, even when we are given opportunities, we do not want to make proper use of those opportunities. Unfortunately, I may not sound very kind like him, because that's not my training. So you will excuse me. I am not a counselor. My training is different. So you know, if you commit a crime, you are a criminal. That is my training. But of course, that is why God created us that way, with people having different talents, so that we are able to balance. When I said the problem of drugs is personal, it's because sometimes to get out of that problem, you have to make a personal decision. Because if you do not make a personal decision, even I have seen our staff, many of them youth, we have taken them to rehabilitation centers, and they have come back and relapsed twice, thrice. Why? Because they have not made a personal decision not to do ABCD. There's a lot of stress in this world, not only to the youth, even to us as adults. You can imagine, I have a family to run, and I mean, the stress on me is much more than on a youth. I would want to imagine. So it all boils down on how, and I am happy at what the young girl there said. How do you take these challenges that we all face? You know, we always see a lot of bashing on social media, on government. You know, some of you look at me here and you think I'm in a, privileged position because maybe I use a government vehicle and I have ABCD. Let me tell you that I spent 3 years without a job after university. Yes, and I did a lot of volunteer work. I'm happy to hear that from you. And we know these things, we have faced these things, so when we talk to you, we have this experience. And my request to you also is to make sure that you make proper use of social media. You know what sometimes we imagine is that what we write on social media can never be traced on who did what. It is very easy to trace you using many methods, which I may not want really to elaborate. And so, make mature, proper use of the social media. Sometimes the things that we write on social media may come back to haunt us, and it doesn't pay at all, at all. As I said earlier, let us use proper methods of communication. Somebody said that some youth are not allowed to Ngao offices. You know, a Ngao office is a public office. And a public office does not discriminate whether you are clean or whatever you are. And I do not know whether that happens in Nairobi. If it does, I will kindly request that you just personally let me know where such a thing happens. But personally, my office is open to everybody. Kevin will tell you, my office is open to everybody because I'm there to serve, and it is your taxes that pay my salary, so I would not have any reason to chase anybody from my office. Now, you know, nobody's fingerprints is taken for committing petty crime. Yeah, so when you said, you know, wale wamefanya makosa kidogo kidogo wanaweza kusamehewa. Anasema, uwezi kunyimwa certificate of good conduct kwa sababu tu ya hii maneno kidogo, labda umeshikwa kwa sababu ya curfew, ukapelekwa police cell. Sio maneno kama hayo. It is serious matters. And there are no two ways about it. Keep off crime. There are no two ways about that. Once you get into that record, I don't know. I've not had any other negotiation, so the only thing I can be able to say for now is that we need to keep off crime. I'm happy that the question on safe space for youth was answered by my brother. But let me say that, you see, our country has rules and regulations. You cannot just decide to come outside Nyayo House and do some performance and take photos. And then when the police officers outside Nyayo House arrest you, sasa unaanza kusema hii serikali nini nini, you know what we say as young people. No, it is so simple. Let my office know that we would like to do A, B, C, D. Write a letter and make a request that you'd like to do A, B, C, D at such and such a place, and we would like to take photos for this purpose. Am I clear? So thank you so much. I hope I didn't leave out anything. My office is very open to working with youth, and particularly on the issue of preventing violent extremism. Or last night, we had a program with some group of youth. They called themselves Lenga Ugaidi. And I welcome you, if you have any groups that are working on any program, particularly on preventing violent extremism, to come and partner with my office so that we can be able also to partner with government and other stakeholders on ensuring that we sensitize the youth on the evils of terrorism. Thank you so much for listening to me.
So back to where we began, is to thank you so much for your participation. No, I have been reading these microphones and they have tags written Kenya School of Government. When I leave here, I want to talk to Dr. Nura so that next time partners come Quest, nipatie contract ya kuleta sound. Napiga mpaka huko na hizi inches hakuna, because now we need to get the PS a proper microphone when he comes to close the session, yeah? But I was saying that I thank you so much for your participation. Very many concerns have been raised here. This session was meant to prepare us to be able to engage with government, particularly institutions that are supposed to help us engage on matters, security, policies around mental health, and just ensuring that we have an all-roundedness as young people insofar as employment is concerned, and even those who probably do not wish to get employed by any agency, but they are doing their own entrepreneurial activities and programs that you basically benefit out of. And as you go back to your counties, from what the county commissioner has said, 3 years ago, His Excellency the President asked all county governments to put in place what is called a county action plan to prevent and counter violent extremism. We have worked as County Governance Watch with all the 47 counties to ensure that by last year, by 2019 June, all the 47 counties had that particular plan. 18 of them have organized official launches of that particular plan. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this so that I say that all the 47 GAO offices are open to young people. Regardless of who you are, we will share with you contacts of all the 47 county commissioners, and if you have challenges of accessing services from county government and even national government agencies, please get in touch. If you cannot reach us, as the county commissioner has said, reach out to her, and there's no reason whatsoever why you cannot be able to reach us. County Governance Watch, we are on all social media spaces. I can also give you my number, 0720-576-696. If you face any barriers from any government office, please reach out and let us help you. The county commissioner, probably because of time, did not tell you that even during COVID-19, very many young people, out of the good working relationships that we have with her office and the other offices, we were able to help young people who were arrested and they didn't know what to do when they get in contact with a police officer. So you start shivering, you are shaking, and probably what you needed to do was just to introduce yourself, and if you have an ID, engage with the police officer. So we have been working with young people who also sit at the framework, an engagement mechanism for that particular dream of the president called the County Engagement Forum. And the youth are part of that particular forum. So that is an opportunity that you can be able to use to engage and take advantage of, so that you also get in touch with county government offices and also national government agencies, departments, and institutions in your counties. Otherwise, thank you so much. This has been Deogratius Magero. Tumpigie kofi moja. And of course, Albert has also been here with us, a psychologist who's shared very exciting comments. Moja. Diana Sifuna from Jackson Johnston Foundation and JJ Swile Vaccine. Tumpigie kofi moja. And our own county commissioner, Madam Flora Murawa. So we are going to give them 1 factorial. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1. Are we together? Yes. Can we give it a try? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. And before I invite Susan, my good friend and former boss, I acknowledge the presence of Madam Elizabeth Kimulu. We worked very well to do Vision 2030, youth perspective, and I can see still growing very strong. See, these are the things we were talking about. Tumpigie pia kofi moja. And Peterson Jenga, so good to see you after very many years. We worked together at the Poverty Eradication Commission, and I am happy that you are still driving the wheel. Many of you here ni marafiki zangu, lakini siwezi watambulisha nyote. Simukuje tupige picha alafu tumwalike bwana PS. And I'm told that Plan International has some gift packs which we are supposed to be given. Ama zimeisha? Tuharakishe. Karibu sana Susan, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Osido. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Plan Kenya, for ensuring that everyone who comes for this session gets a good package. We have done very well as young people. Do you agree with me as they receive their gifts? Have they done well? Okay, let's give them a big clap as they take the seats. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. We've had two good days here. We've done very well on many angles, but Bwana PS, one of the things that we haven't done very well is time management, and we want to sincerely apologize for actually even keeping you here. We left here yesterday at 6:30, and we actually had intended to finish in good time. I want to request you, Bwana PS, to please join me here, accompanied by Elizabeth Kimulu, our director at Presidential Policy and Strategy Unit. And I will also request Mercy Mutana. Mercy, please come as a young person. We are closing in the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we should actually be out of this place. Thank you. Please take that set. Kati kati. Yes. And Mercy, please take this seat. And one of the things that came out even from the meeting is that we would like to be on the table, so I want to request Evans. Where is Evans? He's been talking about youth representation. He's left, yeah? So I want to request one young person. You have never taken a photo with the PS. Kindly come and join him here. One, run. There you go. Bwana PS, we need a young man, please. A young man, please come. Speed yako ndio itakuvunia. We also have another empty seat here. Please come. One other young man, please run. Great. Thank you so much. So Bwana PS, we've been here for the last 2 days. 160 young people were here yesterday, and I think today we had a bigger number, but some people left because they reside in Nairobi. And we had 3 objectives. The first objective was for us to get a platform where we can be able to articulate the different challenges that we are facing, but more importantly, the different opportunities that are available for us to be able to create decent jobs in the sector of agriculture, the digital sector, manufacturing sector, environmental sector, as well as the creative sector. And you found us actually discussing some of the barriers that actually are inhibiting us from accessing those opportunities in those spaces. And asante sana for your time to actually just listen to the panel that actually Kevin Osido has moderated. We also had, we're also here to be able to also get to know and get experiences from the different innovators who are showcasing the different innovations that are within that space. They were amazing, and I'm sure you agree with me that we had very good innovations from the young people who are here from the first day in the sector of agriculture, the manufacturing industry, and Bright Star is here with us, and I'm sure Bright Star would like to sell a few suits to you. She's doing very well. Bright Star, please make sure you see Bwana PS before you leave and everyone else. And the third objective that had actually brought us here was to try and articulate the priorities that can inform the next medium-term plan, the 4th medium-term plan, which we are aware that you're actually currently working on the concept note. So some of the things that came out from this meeting were actually just to situate or to help contextualize that concept note. And we might not have spent some good time trying to identify the priorities because I think we had more questions than recommendations. So we actually are not currently ready to present the different priorities, but what we've agreed is that the issues that we have identified as problems are a good case for us to be able to bring out the recommendation that we can present to your office very soon, because I am one of the beneficiaries of having requested for those opportunities. I remember when we were at Youth Agenda and I was actually reviewing the Dirayetu. We went out and asked young people, what is it that you'd actually like to be in the next MTP2? And that's MTP2. And we went around the country and they identified the issues and the recommendations and even went beyond and identified a few flagship projects. The National Employment Bureau, Bwana PS, is actually a product of recommendations from young people who are seated in a forum like this. So I believe that even us who are here these 2 days, you have not wasted your time because there are key things that you have identified and it will actually get into those MTP2 and I'm sure we'll be encouraged by many more that will get into those spaces. And even the ICT parks were actually some of the recommendations that we had given and we are seeing the Ajura Digital. And even the third thing which we did is that when you had locked us out from the process, that time when as a young person at Youth Agenda, and we were actually just being asked for opinions from outside, we actually wrote a letter to your office. That time it was Bwana Edward Sambili, and we requested to be accommodated in the planning team of the MTP2, and we were actually given a table. I represented young people, and I tried my best to convince the team there. So it is possible, and I believe that you'll actually have a young person also sit in that planning committee at the National Treasury. So, but before I proceed, allow me to allow a young person, because I'm not a youth, to say just one word to the PS before I actually invite Elizabeth to welcome the PS. Ms. Mercy. You can use that mic, I think, is it? Because this is for the PS.
Check one.
And as we check on Mercy's mic, Mercy is, she's 20, she told me she's 21 years old. She's a commerce student at the University of Nairobi and an outgoing director of the Sub-Saharan Africa Model UN, and currently a Kenyan delegate of the Council of Africa, advocate for the Africa Trade Deliberation Team. So, Mercy, what would you like to tell the PS or to speak on behalf of everyone?
First of all protocols are observed. Good evening, everyone. I'm privileged to have the honor as Yes, I am delighted to have the privilege to stand before you and speak on behalf of the youth. This has actually, as mentioned, been my volunteer service ever since I cleared high school. So not everyone goes into crime and drugs. I'm a member of Rotaract Club, which is under Rotary International, which is the main charity, which is one of the leading charity organizations internationally. It's a club in my own varsity, and we're able to do community service. Other great things youth do, they involve themselves in young diplomacy, so that is how I served as a youth director. And we were able to organize from Kenya also a same model version in South Africa for their own high schoolers, and Vunzela, and also in Rwanda. So there's a lot young people in Kenya do, and maybe my plight would be to government, before even the planning, if we could have more positive stories. Because for me, I feel as a youth, we are only known for negatives. We are leading in crime. Currently, I'm also a mental health volunteer in my own school. We have an app to deal with that mental health issue, the SRH issues, because we are also leading in HIV infection. 15 years to 24 years, which I fall, we are 16% of the population, and we are leading in crime. Now I hear Asonri, we are also coming up. And when I look at that, I see young people who have not been educated. So in all your planning, in all your policy, when I look at policy, I think that's something as young people we are so behind. We don't understand the policies, we don't understand the projects, and probably it's because we're not interested, not that we're illiterate. Kenya has the best talent in Africa in terms of education. We are leading even also mobile penetration, so we can research. So what I'd say is education, civic education, financial literacy education, so that we don't find ourselves on CRB and not able to get a job. And I see our youth member of parliament, thankfully, his bill has passed, the employment bill, and that is going to help job seekers like me and others seated here. Now for those who are in business, the county commissioner is here. The employment seekers used to spend 6,000 to get all their certifications in order, now that matters law and crime has been discussed. For someone starting a business, you find at the county, when you add all your licenses, it's 20,000. And then add 10,000 to just register your business. That is 30,000. Tell me how many young people have even 30,000 capital. And that is what is needed for compliance, so that you don't be arrested or be kicked out maybe by Kenha, as we saw, because you are in the wrong place. So that is one thing you can also check on as you do all your planning. Because from what I have learned, and the biggest take home for all of us as youth, is that government is an enabler of business, and when businesses are established and enhanced, we shall surely have employment. So thank you so much for making your time here. Thank you for giving us audience. And indeed, this forum is all about dialogue. It wasn't just about recommendations for the sake, but recommendations that can work. Because I believe we have a stellar public service, being a volunteer at National Youth Council for Nairobi County, and every county has volunteers like me. So another take home other than civic education and looking into the laws that can support us as youth to thrive in this nation. Also that whatever is agreed here at our capital city, Nairobi, that it is also implemented to the farthest of areas, Mandera, Wajir, everything that is launched at even county headquarters, that it goes to the farthest doorstep, so that indeed the youth do not become a liability, but we become our nation's asset. Thank you so much.
The youth have spoken. The youth have spoken. Thank you so much, Mercy, for just highlighting some of the key things that came out from the meeting. And Bwana PS, one of the things that they were concerned about is that KRA is on their back every other day. They do not know now whether to proceed on advertising on Facebook and Instagram. So a number of the businesses are also going down because of that pressure. And they were asking what can be done by the government to try and safeguard them from some of those things. We don't want to take a lot of time, but allow me to give the vote of thanks before I invite Elizabeth. So then after the PS speaks, we will just do the national anthem and close. So on behalf of the partners who are here, we want to, and because it was a partnership, as you saw, we had so many logos here. I am actually doing this on behalf of the very many partners who are present. We want to thank first sincerely all the young people who came for this meeting. Kindly stand if you're a young person, first below the age of 25. If you're a young person below the age of 25, please stand. Look at that. So those are the majority. If you're a young person below the age of 35, please stand wherever you are. We want to acknowledge and appreciate you for coming. Thank you so much. You have made these 2 days rememberable, actually not just for the people who are here, but even for the children who are being born. You may have your seats. We really acknowledge you for your time. We also want to thank the panelists who are here. Some of them were young panelists, some were young people like Akina Bryster, and all the moderators who made time to actually be part of this process. We want to sincerely thank you for your time. We also want to also acknowledge our different partners. We had very many partners who supported these initiatives from the government, from private sector, from civil society organizations. We might not be able to mention all of you because of time. Just allow us, since the logos are there and they're actually speaking for everyone, we want to thank you so much. But we also want to just make a special vote of thanks. We want to appreciate a credible institution that mentored me to be who I am, that gave me the platform to volunteer as a young person. So I will request that we be upstanding and the Youth Agenda team to actually sit down as we celebrate you for what you have done. Let's all be upstanding. We are exercising because I don't want us to sleep. As we give a mighty, 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 mighty clap to the Youth Agenda team led by Victor. Victor, thank you so much, and your team, Mogambi, and the entire team, Winnie, for having spent sleepless nights to actually organize and to bring us here. We acknowledge you. May the Lord bless you and enlarge your territories. You may have your seats. And I'm sure you know Victor, who is leading that team, the former CEO of Youth Agenda, who is here, and all this. We are friends of Youth Agenda, so thank you so much. And also to the Kenya School of Government, Peter Quest and your team, thank you for hosting us. We have enjoyed the lunch. It was sumptuous. I can tell you. The nyama, I know, I was actually telling Jerry, hatujaipata nyama kama hii anywhere else. So thank you so much. So I will now invite Elizabeth to officially invite the PS and to proceed on from there. Thank you.
Our PS, who is our guest for closing this session, the CEC, the County Commissioner for Nairobi, our esteemed youth, ladies and gentlemen, and my colleagues. I will want to start by just saying something brief before I invite the PS so that he can know some of the work that is going on in the background. Ideally, the PS is my boss.
I'm actually seconded from his office to the office of the president, something that he learned today. But I want to just inform you, Mr. PS, that one of the calls by the president last year when he launched the Generation Unlimited was that he doesn't want more programs created if young people don't know about the programs that are there. And Generation Unlimited is about connecting young people with opportunities through stakeholder partners. And I would like to appreciate the county commission. She joined us in May. Is it this year? Yes, on May 27th at Embakasi with over 10 partners who came to tell the young people of Embakasi what opportunities are there in government and also in private sector and CSOs. We did that in 10 regions. Nairobi was just one of the regions. And through that, we actually had about 367 young people who we had selected from each county to just have people. And we had round tables that we were calling Kikao, where we had, including banks, people come and tell young people there. So in terms of first connect young people to opportunities that are there and together with them, identify gaps that need to be sorted out so that they can now be enhanced. And with that, I would like to just mention two things, Mr. PS. As we go to the fourth medium-term planning session, we need to really mainstream youth. And I would urge your office to really reiterate that to all the people that are going to be coming up with projects and plans. We tend to segregate youth issues. I can tell you, young people will not be empowered until each and every department that is coming up with flagship projects says clearly what they are going to do for young people. If you look at infrastructure, the Ministry of Infrastructure should be made to understand that they can also create opportunities for young people. County of Nairobi, when the Kenya Highways or the Kura is coming up with the roads in Nairobi, please tell them to show what opportunities are there for young people. I live on Gong Road. In Gong Road, every stage, beside every stage, there is a very big space between the road and the boundary of the private boundaries. What would stop the County of Nairobi from having 2 or 3 kiosks, good ones, beside each bus stop, so that if somebody comes out of the matatu, a young person can be there selling sweets, selling razor blades, and selling milk, because sometimes people don't have time to go to the supermarket if they need only 1 packet of milk. So I see opportunity in infrastructure. Recently, we saw a young girl being harassed by Kura because she was on social media saying she's selling kiosks under a road underpass. What, if there is space there, what would stop the county from putting 2 nice spaces there for young people to do biashara? So for me, it is let us mainstream even in sectors that we don't think that there are opportunities for young people. Secondly, when it comes to policies, let us go out there and look at policies that can enhance young people's development. And in this, I'm thinking of internship policy, for instance. We have an internship policy basically for the public service, but the most jobs are in the private sector. So there's a draft policy that is at National Treasury to try and see whether we can create opportunities for young people, internship opportunities through the private sector. And I know that KEPSA, she's left, but they had approach the president on that. So if we can just have a flagship on finalizing that internship policy that includes the private sector. Then we have culture and heritage policy, Bwana PS, that has been discussed for a long time. Right now, I think there's a draft bill or a draft policy. all these things, as we are saying, if we are going to have orange jobs, if we are going to have creative sector really thriving, we need to finalize the culture and heritage policy. So basically, there are several policies that need to be looked at, and they can become flagships. Finalizing, just ensuring we finalize policies that and strategies that will enhance young people's empowerment. These young people will be the people that will lead this country. So we need to be strategic and not be apologetic and not want to listen to them. Finally, we've had a lot of challenges that were brought out, and I would wish that the team that was rapporteuring would bring this out well so that we can apportion them to the different sectors, because those barriers are challenges. Of course, there are some that are personal, but if they are systemic or they have to do with the sectors, we can easily write clearly to those sectors. And also ensure that we have a few young people or organizations represented in different sectors so that they bring out those issues clearly to be included in the MTP, because if they are not in the MTP, then they won't be funded. So you are Bwana with those few remarks. I would like to introduce you to these young people. We were very many, this hall was full, but I think some left early. For those who don't know, our PS for planning, national planning and statistics, Mr. Saitoti Torome has been in planning for a very long time. So he understands planning and he understands policies. He was in the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and also has been now, I think this is it's like 6 years or 7 in planning. So he understands planning very well, and he has a team that does a lot of work in terms of planning, and they also have sectors within there. So, and they also do what is called National Integrated Monitoring and Evaluation. So they are the ones who evaluate the impacts of the plans that we will put in the MTP. So they will, and I'm sure soon they are going to tell us what has happened with MTP3, so that we also know how well we have done in those things that we had put in, but then those will be lessons for moving to the medium-term plan 4. So, Bwana PS, karibu sana. We are happy that you could join us. Today being a Friday, we are very lucky to have you here.
Participants from various parts of the country, good evening. So, first of all, I am grateful to have been invited in this forum, and when I read the invitation letter, I noted that it is actually a workshop to come and talk about youth and unemployment, but my role was very specific, is to come and talk about the MTP4, which we are about to, or which we have started the preparatory work. That is for 2023 up to 2027. So, and when I also listened to the discussion, I found that if I had not been told to come and talk about MTP, I would have come and talked generally about the youth issues, because I normally say being a youth is not a permanent phenomenon. I was also a youth, and if I tell you the time when I was a youth, you will find it very exciting. That years ago I was a youth. And most of you can remember what was happening that years ago, wakati wa Ford, wakati wa mchakato wa kupigania demokrasia ya vyama vingi vya kisiasa. Wakati huo ndio nilikuwa youth. While I was a youth that years ago, now I am a father of 3 youth and a small CBC. So, I also have a lot of experience. I know what a young person thinks, because with life, time teaches you to be realistic. I knew what I was thinking when I was a young person. Unfortunately, during our time, because if you read about my biography, small biography, I was trained as a teacher, Kenyatta University, and I taught, during those days, we used to leave campus with a letter reporting to the school we were, and because I am an economist, unemployment. Because even a young man in Kayole or Dandora or in Kiamaiko atakwambia ati yeye sio employed and yet yeye ni mtu wa mjengo. The truth of the matter is, as long as you have been doing something for the last 7 days, something that is earning you an income, then you are not unemployed. The only thing which a mjengo person may suffer is what in economics we used to call seasonal unemployment, because construction comes, then after that it goes away. So it happens like that. So as we grow older, we become more realistic, and we know what is possible and what is not possible. I would have shared a lot with you, but let me stick to my subject today. So I am pleased to join you today during this closing ceremony of this important forum that over the last 2 days discussed pertinent issues of youth unemployment, of youth empowerment, especially creating an enabling environment for positive engagement for a decent livelihood. If you remember, we did our census in 2019, and at the time we worked very closely with the commissioner because we were making sure that in Nairobi everybody is counted. But the youth population, and when you talk about the youth population, there are people who are between the age of 18 to 35. They constitute approximately 75% of the Kenya's population. So they therefore constitute a huge catchment area for employment across all the sectors, and therefore they provide a solid opportunity for consolidating gains associated with the demographic dividend. I think you have been told about the demographic dividends, but what demographic dividends means is that when a country has got a youthful population, then it may gain from what we call demographic dividend, because when you have a youthful population, that one is an asset to a society, because in the first place, youth are strong. You give them skills, and they'll be able to contribute positively to the economic development. So, population dividend does not just happen on its own. The government must invest in youth, provide them with proper skills, and also address all the education and overall well-being to allow exploitation of full potential inherent in explicit demographic dividend. So a country will develop or a country will benefit from youth depending on how it actually imparts skills and the way it actually looks at the knowledge of the youth. But if you just have youth who are not educated and who have no knowledge or who have no skills, then instead of the country benefiting from youth, the youth become an issue because of things like, which you have, I know you have learned them today about things of drug abuse, teenager pregnancy, all those things. So if you don't do what you are supposed to do, then you will reap from what you fail to do. So I have no doubt that in my mind that the outcome of this conference will go a long way in providing a solid platform for consolidating priorities and opportunities with a view to preparing responsive and inclusive intervention for youth employment, for youth development. I note that the conference has also produced admirable and innovative approaches to job creation. I would like to take this opportunity to brief you on the process of developing the 4th medium-term plan and Vision 2030 that is ongoing, and it is the responsibility of the State Department of Planning. I think before now I read about those steps or what we are actually supposed to do. There are a few things that I want to mention. You know, some years back, we just used to plan for the sake of planning. And it is said, and I think you have heard many people saying so, you know, Kenyans are very good in planning. I hear there are some countries which came here, then they stole our plans, they went and implemented, and then they are ahead of us. Let me tell you that that is now gone. Do you know why I say so? When I was young, we used to be told that there used to be a government target that by the year 2000, and you know when, for example, when it was in 70s, when you talk about 2000, you see as if it is very far. So that's what we normally tell people. That was 30 years ago. Like now, when I talk about it, in fact, I normally tell people not to stop talking about 2030. You know, 2030, we talk about 2030 because of the SDGs and also Africa 2063. You know, when you talk to people about 2030, people perceive as if it is very far. Instead of talking about 2030, talk about 9 years to come. And you know, 9 years ago, it is when? It is in 2012, when we were coming up with the PFM Act. So, if you say 2030, people may see as if it is very far, but when you say 9 years ago, people will see as if we use it. So we have been talking about 2022. See, 2022 ni hiyo kesho kutwa. So, why I am saying so, if you look at the history of this country, we have been planning, but look at how this country has changed from when the NAC government took over power in 2002. When I also talk about 2002, you may see it's very far, about 19 years ago. So you will find that nowadays, as a government, we don't just talk about planning, but we make sure that these government plans are implemented. That is why we have SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi. That's why we have Vika Superhighway. That is why we are now doing the expressway. That's why we have the 47 county governments. That's why we are talking about the Big Four. That's why you talk about many university institutions, a lot of reform in the public sector. And because of what the government has been implementing, we started when the retired President Moi Kibaki formed the government in 2002. He came up with what we used to call the ERS, Economic Recovery Strategy. And that made from a negative growth rate up to a 10% growth rate around 2010. If it were not for the post-election, for the unfortunate post-election violence of 2007, we would have registered consistent high growth rate. So because of that, all these plans which the government, we talk about MTP2, no, MTP1, MTP2, and then now the MTP3 that we are implementing. All those the government has been implementing, and because of all those programs the government has been implementing, this is what has even has made the economy to grow, and that is why even the employment opportunities have also grown, despite the challenges that we have actually seen. So, in our days, we don't just talk about planning, and that is why when NAC took over government in 2002, we came up with Vision 2030. And in order to make sure that Vision 2030 is implemented to the letter, we formed what we call the VDS, Vision 2030 Delivery Secretary. Is to track to see that the flagship projects that are identified in Vision 2030 are done when they are implemented. And also, we strengthen the M&E department. Somebody mentioned about it. That's why. So, in our days in Kenya, we don't just plan, but we implement. And then we have even incorporated the SDGs, so we are implementing the SDGs as a country. And also now, in his wisdom, His Excellency the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, he now saw that what can he do as a legacy to make sure that he creates more employment and the economy move forward. He came up with the Big Four. Because if we can concentrate on the Big Four alone, then the country can really be transformed. Manufacturing, it will create a lot of jobs. Health sector, it can also create a lot of jobs. Housing can also create a lot of jobs. And then even the food security can also create a lot of jobs. So, we actually plan, and every year, when we have a plan like the FTP3 or FTP4, we look at where are we with regard to implementation. So we actually do what we call the midterm review. And therefore, so the fourth medium-term plan, which runs from 2023 to 2027, which we are calling FTP4, of Kenya Vision 2030, is actually the second last medium-term plan of the Vision 2030. Just as I told you, 2030 is just around the corner, because we are talking about 8 years ago. 8 years to come. About 8, or because this year is almost ending, we are talking about 8 years to come. And it will succeed the one that we are currently implementing, that is 2018-2022, which incorporates the Big Four agenda that prioritize on food security, manufacturing, housing, and universal health care. So enhancing manufacturing and provision of affordable housing, whose main aim is to create jobs and enable citizens to meet their basic needs. So the fourth FTP will set the momentum for transition to the next long-term development agenda for the country. So even before 2030, as a State Department for Planning, we have started to think on which will be our next, instead of 2030, because we will be beyond 2030. We are thinking whether we can actually choose 2063 to be our next long-term plan. And the reason is because of a very simple law. 2063, that's the time the country will be celebrating 100 years. So we want to see what shall we have achieved after a century. And even a country like United Arab Emirates, You know, the Vision 2030 was actually running for 100 years. It got independent in 1971. So they have got a long-term plan from 1971 up to 2071. And the reason why I'm saying the country will be celebrating 100 years, maybe by 2063, if I'll be alive, I'll be 99 years old. I even do not know whether I'll be alive. It will be guided by the Constitution of Kenya 2010, Kenya Vision 2030, and lesson learned in the implementation of the MTPs. So that's what we normally plan. When we are coming up with a plan, we look at what did we achieve, what did we fail to achieve, though it is very important, so we incorporate all those. And it will also incorporate policies, program, projects, and institutional reforms to be undertaken during the 2023 to 2027, as well as priorities outlined in the manifesto of the political party forming the government after the next general election, scheduled for 2022. So we actually don't conclude MTP 4. We wait for the political party that will form the next government so that we incorporate in manifesto. And I think that was a very good way of coming up with the MTP. Because there was a time we were interacting with people from Ghana, you know what they were telling us? They were wondering how come that you Kenyans, you have got Vision 2030, and it is even going on even after the change of government. It is simply because of that. We incorporate the winning party. Its view must be incorporated so that if there are something they wanted to implement and it is not in the MTP, it is incorporated. That one make it to be supported by whoever comes to power. It doesn't matter because its views will be incorporated instead of throwing it, the whole of it. So that is what we are. That's what we shall do. So we shall conclude MTP 4. I mean, after August 2022. Maybe we shall launch it in January 2023, or or March 2023, something like that. So the process of developing the MTP 4 has begun in the NS with the development of draft concept. In fact, we have already done the concept note, and this concept note will also be validated by the MDAs, and this concept note will definitely guide the development of the MTP. And what will happen? Consultations with the formation of MTP committees and the sector working group is underway and is expected to be completed by the end of next month. That is next month, that is December 2021. And it will involve several sub-activities including we shall have the MTP4 Stakeholders Forum, the MTP4 National Steering Committee, the MTP4 Technical Committee, the MTP4 Sector Working Groups, and finally a discussion on the theme of the MTP4. So the preparation of MTP4 comes against the backdrop of, among other challenges, negative effects of COVID-19 pandemic that have adversely affected the key economic activities and disrupted the social interaction within the country and globally. The MTP4 will therefore be expected to prioritize implementation of economic recovery strategies, reposition the economy on the speedy and sustainable growth trajectory. Just as I told you, in Kenya we are always very alert because even when COVID came, that year we actually came up with economic recovery strategy, the post-COVID economic recovery strategy. It is the one that we have been implementing. It's only that we did not publish it, but it is there, and it is the one even which the CS for National Treasury and Planning uses for the budget, and any other ministry. They have all come up with it. It's normally a very consultative process. So it will be prepared. So the MTP4 will therefore be expected to prioritize on implementation of recovery strategy and to reposition the economy on a speedy, sustainable growth trajectory. It will also be prepared in line with the Constitution of Kenya 2030, that call for the consultative process. Various segments of the population will be engaged at different stages during the MTP4 preparation process at both the national and county fora, parliamentary committees and other forums, which will culminate into the dissemination of MTP document to all the counties, scheduled for February to March 2023. Those consultations will aim at ensuring inclusiveness and consensus building for identification of policies, programs, and projects for implementation over the midterm. I think that one, as we know, that is a constitutional requirement whereby there must be public participation when it comes to important things like planning. So we go to every counties, then we have the county forums, we do them now, we come together, we have youth representative, we have religious organizations, everybody is included, then they give their views about the MTP. And also, the MTP4 will illuminate on the macroeconomic performance and achievement realized during the implementation of the MTP2. So in other words, we shall reflect what we have achieved or the macroeconomic performance that we have had since we started implementing the current MTP3. And also we talk about the foundation, the enablers, all those things. So, and our aim is actually to be a newly industrialized middle income country of high quality life by 2030. Already, we have achieved the status of lower middle income. That one we attained in 2014 when we revised the GDP. And although there are some need for those who are students of economy, I think you know there are good things about that and bad things. But the good thing is that we are moving forward. Because you know, you now start, you can never be given low concessional loans. You start being given loan on commercial loans, and also there are things like the grants. You are no longer a grant. It is like, for example, when your neighbor become rich, hata watoto wake hawakuji kwako kukula lunch. Sasa amejitegemea. So there are problems with that. So further, the MTP4 will seek to review the challenges and counter the lesson learned from emerging issues. All those are the processes of developing the MTP. Like, you know, the emerging issues is like the COVID-19. So all those are incorporated, and the changes in technology and many other things. And then the youth issue will continue to receive prominence in the MTP4. It may be recalled that during the International Conference for Population and Development, ICPD, held in Nairobi in November 2019, Kenya made 17 commitments, and one of the commitments, that is commitment number 8, focuses on harnessing the demographic dividend through investment in health, citizens' well-being, education and skill training, employment creation, and entrepreneurship. So the rights and the governance and the empowerment of the young people. The government will therefore continue to formulate policies to implement projects, programs, intervention to harness the potential of the youth, empower them, and create opportunities. I think, just as somebody mentioned, whatever the outcome of this, we can consider it, and also you will be free to participate either in your counties during those forums, because youth are normally invited in those. The youth groups are invited during those forums, and of course. And during also the MTP4 preparatory process, that will be highly participatory and consultative. The young leaders from across various formations will be among the key stakeholders to provide inputs through the various forums on programs, projects, reforms, and other interventions to inform prioritization over the next medium-term plan. And as I conclude my remarks, I wish to appreciate the goodwill exemplified by the following partners in supporting this noble cause or noble event: the National Youth Employment Conference, Executive Office of the President, Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, the National Youth Council, International Labour Office of Kenya, the Ford Foundation, EFOS, Plan International. I can also see UNEP is mentioned, Fair Trade Africa, One Campaign, Kenya County Governance Watch, Kenya Land Alliance, and the host of this conference, Kenya School of Government. And because I don't want to keep you, we are very lucky coffee with Equisha. Finally, allow me to thank you, the Youth Agenda, for seeing the merit to organize this benefiting event during such an opportune moment. It is now my pleasure and privilege to declare the 2021 National Youth Employment Conference officially closed.
Thank you, Bwana PS. I want to request that we all be upstanding for our national anthem to actually officially close the meeting. I will request that you move just up here, and I also want the Youth Agenda CEO to kindly come and join the team. Just move this side. We want to take a photo as we do this, so then the Youth Agenda CEO, your team, if they are also here, it's an opportunity for us to be able to recognize you. Madam Commissioner, would also request that you also join the team. Okay. So, thank you so much. Let's sing the national anthem. We'll do it in Kiswahili today. We did it in English yesterday. E Mungu nguvu yetu, ilete baraka kwetu, haki iwe ngao na mlinzi, na tukae na undugu, amani na uhuru, raha tupate na usawi. Thank you so much. You may have your seat. Aluta continue. Oh, the plan. And please, we have tea. We have tea. Please do not leave before you take your cup of tea. Victor, where is the tea served? This side? Yes, tea is served this side. And thank you so much. Please pass our regards to everyone at the county. And thank you, Youth Agenda, for hosting this conference.
demo like you're giving.